Brant County Council for September the 24th, 2024. The first thing on our agenda is our attendance, and we've taken our attendance, and we only have regrets from Councillor House. He's not going to be able to be here tonight. So with that being said, we'll go to number 2 on the agenda, which is the land acknowledgement, and I believe Councillor Chambers has that.
As we gather, we acknowledge that we meet on the lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, 6 nations of the Grand River, and the traditional territory of the Attawandaronk. We remind ourselves that the County of Brant is situated on lands that are full of rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people today. We recognize the significance of their contributions to the past, present, and future of this land. As a county, we have a shared responsibility for the stewardship of the land on which we live and work, and a commitment to the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action. We commit to continue learning, reflecting on our past, and working in allyship.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. It takes us to number 3 on the agenda, which is the approval of the agenda. Does anyone have anything to add to the agenda? Councillor Pierce?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one item under other business.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have anything now or during other business? No. We have Councillor Pierce. You're going to move the agenda then?
I will, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Miller, that the Brant County Council agenda and addendum for September 24th be approved.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Which takes us to number 4 on the agenda, which is the declaration of pecuniary interest. If you have one, please, Councillor Chambers.
Mr. Mayor, for transparency purposes, I just want to be known that I am a member of one of the service clubs that is making a delegation. I don't have a conflict pecuniary interest due to the nature of the presentation, so I just wanted to make that known. I'm not declaring because I don't believe I do have a pecuniary interest, but I am a member of one of the clubs.
Councillor, I don't think you do either, so thank you for letting us know that. If anyone else has anything, no? If you decide that you do have a pecuniary interest, please let me be the first one to know. With that being said, we'll go to number 5 on the agenda, which is our delegations, 5.1, which is going to be a report from Darrell Lee on the BME, Brant Municipal Enterprises. If you'd like to come to the podium, and for those few people in the room who might not know who you are, could you give us your name and who you represent, please?
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm Darrell Lee, and I'm here as CEO of Brant Municipal Enterprises, which is the county's wholly owned subsidiary corporation. So this is I think before I get started, to Mayor Bailey and members of council, thank you for the opportunity to do our annual report and check in with our shareholder. I'd certainly like to acknowledge Mayor Bailey and our council representatives, Councillor John Pierce, Councillor John Bell, who serve on the board of directors of Brant Municipal Enterprises and do an amazing job in those roles. So thank you for that. Certainly, I appreciate it's a long agenda for council tonight, so I've endeavored to put a summary together of some of the key points related to the annual report, and I'll try to stick to those. Forgive me, the intent of tonight is to really look backwards, to look at 2023 and what happened, but I think a lot of what I would like to talk about tonight is looking forward and where we're headed with BME. We're fresh off a strategic planning workshop last week, so lots of great ideas around the table about where BME certainly needs to go. So in 2023, we did see BME return to profitability, although it was a small net profit of just over $5,700. There was a lot to contend with within the organization in 2023. I indicated that BME showed incredible resiliency in addressing a lot of organizational change. So the turnover of a long-term CEO within the organization, the expiration of terms for a couple very valuable long-serving board members, Certainly, I've jumped in to fill the role of CEO. We have a fully, the board of directors is fully appointed now, moving forward. 2023 also saw the kind of the culmination, the final pieces wrapped up in BME's sale of our fiber business. So the sale to ExploreNet, those final holdbacks were released, so all those revenues were received by BME in 2023, and that transaction is complete. We also saw in 2023 the Cowan Community Health Hub fully operational. We have a part-time staff resource who helps coordinate activities at the health hub. The table was certainly set. If I'm looking back to 2023, the table was set for certainly the transfer of ownership of the health hub to BME, but as most of you know, that has occurred this year. That transaction closed on July 25th of this year. And so now, while fully operational, we kind of turn our attention to efficiencies and trying to meet all the targeted financial objectives of the health hub. So we very recently leased out one of the remaining spaces within the hub, and we'll be looking to certainly ensure that resource is maintained and provide the level of service to patrons and tenants that they have come to expect in the community. I think today, certainly, and I mentioned, again through the mayor, I mentioned the workshop that BME held last week. I think BME is at an important strategic point in its history, and we've kind of culminated the fiber business. We've completed that sale. So we're looking at new strategic objectives being put in place for BME and trying to move forward with those. That strategic plan that BME is developing will be shared with council in the next couple of months. And the board even wanted to take a step further back and look at some of the objectives and the corporate mandate that was established for BME when BME was established by this council. So that report will be shared with council in the very near future in terms of what we see as some updated strategic objectives for the corporation. As the annual report highlights some of the projects identified in the 2023 annual report, there's a really strategic role developing here for BME in assisting primarily the county, its shareholder, in developing net zero infrastructure and to meet the timelines and the goals within the county's climate action plan. We've seen that with amendments to the county's purchasing policy, and I think those are being ratified this evening. That helps formalize the relationship of BME to the county, certainly in some respects that support that development. And certainly members of council will probably recall a lot of the discussion around a renewable energy project last year at the Paris transfer station, with a lot of that good exploratory work that was done back in 2023. We're still very much looking at a project coming together late this year in response to the province's LT2 renewable energy procurement. So we're certainly working internally with county stakeholders and in discussions with IESO and a project developer, hoping that comes together for late 2024, 2025. 2023 saw another 12 months with the Director of Energy, and Sean Jacob is with us tonight. Sean's a vital member of BME in terms of bringing more renewable energy projects and initiatives on stream. And certainly in the last 4 to 5 months, we're seeing a continued shift in the energy landscape. The province is changing rapidly. The policy framework around that, I think BME and subsequently the county is pretty well positioned to take advantage of that. And I think the only other point I would like to raise, and you'll see that as it comes forward in our revised strategic plan in the next few weeks, is that part of the discussion with the board is that there are certainly roles that BME could and possibly should be filling that go beyond just revenue generation and net income for the shareholder. And that is looking at various service delivery gaps or pressures that the municipality might be facing. So certainly that will be evidenced when we bring forward that draft strategic plan in the next few weeks. I think, a bit of a sneak preview of what will be in that plan. I think kind of all the initiatives that we might consider coming forward with, that next line of business for BME is all predicated on the availability of land in the municipality. So that will certainly be the focus of BME, whether it's land acquisition or partnering with the shareholder to ready ourselves for that next project. So again, I know I spent a lot of time looking forward instead of looking backwards, but there's a lot of exciting things certainly happening at BME right now. We've in the past few weeks undertaking projects beyond the county's borders, with a couple projects coming together in other municipalities. So certainly excited about what the future brings, Mr. Mayor, and certainly available for any questions that members of this council may have.
Thank you, Daryl. Thank you for all the work you do for us too. And I'd also like to thank Heather for all the time she puts into the board at BME. She works very hard for us. Does council have any questions for Daryl on the presentation of BME? Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Mr. Lee. Daryl, objective number 1 for BME is facilitate renewable generation and conservation of energy. I got 3 questions in particular on that. 3 projects. Are any of these on your radar, on BME's radar? First one's the Paris Dam. We know from a study done a few years ago that low-level hydroelectric dam can produce 600 kilowatts of constant power. Is that something that is on BME's radar?
Yeah, through the mayor's chair. Yes, it certainly is. I think the board was very clear in terms of that strategic planning workshop that a renewable energy project in the next 12 months, trying to bring that together in the next 12 months should be our focus. So yeah, it very much is on the radar, Councillor.
That's a big project, and you'd have to partner with multiple partners, and certainly the county would be happy to do that. Second specific question: what about capturing methane at the landfill? Is that something that BME could take on? And I know we can sell that. A lot of municipalities do sell what do they call it? Clean renewable gas or something like that, and they sell it via contracts at the Dawn Hub. Is that something that BME has looked at or thought about looking at, or is it anybody mention it?
Again, through the chair, it's not to Councillor Miller. It's not something immediately on our radar. There have been general discussions around that, so I wouldn't say it's on the front burner, but certainly I'm willing to take that forward and discuss with the board and see how we might advance that.
Okay, I think it fits in nice with objective number 1. And then the last one, I would like to know, maybe your director of energy might know, how big in terms of kilowatts would a water source need to be to make it viable? In other words, the low-level Paris Dam could do 600 kilowatts consistently. How low can we go?
All right. So through Mayor Bailey, Sean Jacobs can join me here. Sorry, Councillor.
Through Mayor Bailey, Councillor. Good evening, everyone. So to help you answer the question, I'll just briefly give you a little bit of background. Back when we've got lots of solar, obviously throughout the county, now totaling close to 5 megawatts. A lot of that was FIT projects, so feed-in tariff, and that ranged anywhere from 5 kilowatt to 1,000, 1 megawatt or even more. The ISO has now come out with a new version of the FIT project, which was part of the report that we're looking to participate in. And the minimum, they have actually set a minimum on it, and that's 1 megawatt. So they're not really looking at that right now, but there is a new plan coming out for 2025 and possibly 2026 to look at small hydro facilities or renewable energy sources. So to answer your question, is not at this moment, there's not a vehicle to be able to put that on right now, but in 2025, 2026, they're going to be revising the province, we're going to be revising, looking at small hydro plants.
Okay. So 600 kilowatts would be considered a small scale project.
It would be, yeah, that would be small scale.
Less than 1. But I mean, it's still, relative to our solar, which only produces when the sun is shining.
Yeah.
And it's clean, it's there all year.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much, guys.
Any other questions for Daryl or Sean before he sits down? Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Thank you for your condensed report, and Sean for being here to answer your question. I'm looking for council to, first of all, receive for information. Thank you, Councillor Coleman and Councillor Pierce. All those in favor to receive. And now I'm looking in front of you, although his presentation was condensed, there is a financial statement before you. I'm looking for a motion to receive the financials. Approve the financials. Councillor Oakley and Councillor McAlpine. Any questions to the financials? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And then I'm looking for a motion to close the annual general meeting just out of, just because it's the last time we're going to hear from Daryl until the next session starts. Councillor Garneau and Councillor Kyle, all those in favor? Approved. Thank you. I'm looking at my agenda now, and there's two things I'd like to change with the permission of council. I'd like to put 5.2 and 5.10 together and have Edith come forward. And I also see a couple of requests to speak from people that didn't register to speak, but I think we should allow them to speak. I'm looking for a motion from council to let the people that have come here to speak. Councillor Oakley, looking for a seconder. Councillor Pierce, all those in favor? Thank you. So the people that have come that aren't registered to speak, you're welcome to speak. And Edith is speaking about two different things, but with the same intent at 5.2 and 5.10. So take it away, Edith Stone. We can't hear you. Just push your button.
Sorry.
Put your little microphone down, close it. There you go. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Bailey, councillors, staff, and members of the public, both here and online. My name is Edith Stone, and I'm from Paris. And along with other Brant County Cemetery Advisory Committee members, Joan Gatward from Oakland, who is ill tonight. She's suffering from shingles. But Patricia Smeaton from Mount Pleasant is here, and we have come to oppose your hired consultant's recommendation to disband the Cemetery Advisory Committee. It's a long-standing committee. It existed as cemetery boards in the various communities, townships, until amalgamation, when it became one board under the County of Brant. This investigation of the effectiveness of the advisory committees was requested by the county at a cost, and I left that blank because there were varying costs, and I couldn't get a final answer as of Friday. However, their findings, which you as councillors were privy to 2 weeks ago, did not include the report's findings back to the affected groups, even though some of the information came from the group members themselves by way of a survey earlier this summer. It seems to be always only about dollars and not what is in the best interest of the heart and soul of communities in the county. I am sure you all are aware that the committees consist of individuals residing in the county who must go through an application process and be approved to share their time, expertise, and knowledge for free. Yes, we are all volunteers, a precious commodity these days, and are truly valuable and irreplaceable in most organizations. The report highlights, and rightly so, 5 areas which showcase the importance of these committees. They are, number 1, expertise and specialization, diverse backgrounds, knowledge, skills, and expertise, the historical knowledge of the cemeteries being a particularly useful item. Community representation. Our group currently represents St. George, Mount Pleasant, Paris, and Oakland. It is difficult to imagine that staff assigned to cemetery activities would have the background knowledge to cover rising situations as the committee does now, and accessing that information will cost time not accounted for in their report. 3, policy development and implementation. Committee members offer practical recommendation based on experiences and insight. They know what will work in their community and what won't, saving time and money when plans have to be undone and readdressed. Long-term planning. Committees can focus on long-term planning, helping the county make informed decisions that consider the sustainable development of the community. This proactive approach is essential for addressing future challenges and ensuring the community's well-being. Resource optimization. By tapping into the knowledge and expertise of committee members, the County of Brant can optimize resource allocation and make more informed decisions and better outcomes for the community. And those were direct quotes from that report. The contributions of committees can be instrumental in addressing a variety of challenges and ensuring the County of Brant policies and initiatives align with the diverse needs of businesses, residents, and visitors. Without the committee and the public input, the close-knit, caring, small community feel is gone. Some of the information in the report is incorrect. The committee is comprised both of men and one man. One member is grandfathered to be able to continue. That same member is here tonight, and she graciously, along with her sister, hosts the Mount Pleasant Cemetery tours that took place last year and will again as part of the Culture Days, which the county is promoting. The report questioned our function. We are regulated by the BBO, the Bereavement Board of Ontario, and so must adhere to their regulations. The meetings are held every other month when a location and time are available to suit staff during business hours with no other conflicts. An evening meeting would require staff overtime. Any meeting scheduled further apart than that, if a request has been made or a concern brought forward, the time until a concern is addressed and reported back to the committee could easily be 6 months or more, which is not effective or timely. We have always had a quorum, and resolutions only take place when the need arises. Our meetings average an hour in duration, unless we are touring a cemetery, which we have been doing, especially the active sites, the last 18 months. We will agree that there has been an increase in recommendations in 2023 as we have a new chair. The previous chair had held that position since the amalgamation with the county. The gap in implementation in the report is a county issue, usually staffing issues or costs. For example, to replace foundations or stone repair in a timely fashion, the foundations are only poured twice a year, whether it is a new foundation or a replacement. Staff currently manages operational matters, legislative adherence, bylaw development, strategic priorities, and funding opportunities. We were pleased to meet with Phil Met and Melissa Connor last week and received some new ideas to promote public engagement of cemeteries with videos and tours. This can shed a new light on the importance of history and culture of our cemeteries in the County of Brant. But allow me to ask, who will provide oversight that concerns are addressed in all the cemeteries in a timely fashion, not just the active ones that are maintained by staff regularly? Who will keep a loving, watchful eye on the rest? How often will they be checked, as now you have advisory committee members who live in various parts of the county and keep a watchful, caring eye on their loved ones and others' resting place? Think back to the Paris Cemetery when the developers wanted to just cut through the west end of the cemetery with roadway to alleviate their compliance liability issues and having 2 entrances exits to their subdivision. The committee strongly opposed this, and it didn't happen. Would there have been any input from the public if the road was allowed to go ahead as planned by the developer? What would have been the cost, and how would an issue have been handled with a disgruntled group of citizens vehemently opposed? When one of the water lines in the Paris Cemetery wasn't in service due to a split in the line, who made sure the public knew the water was available in another section by having staff attach signage at the out-of-service taps to direct visitors until it was repaired? The advisory committee. How much time would have to be taken by a staff in dealing with upset plot caretakers when they couldn't maintain what they had planted? Who brought to the county the need to have longer interment hours on a Saturday for a fee? The advisory committee, and it was implemented. Who is going to give the cemetery staff historical references and information when they ask? And this just occurred at one of our most recent meetings. Who is going to keep a watchful eye on our loved ones past, your loved ones and their families in their final resting places? The volunteers on the committee who give up their time, talents, and expertise selflessly. May I remind you, you asked for our input and participation, and we freely give it. And to be told we are not a useful committee that we are not worth investing approximately $2,200 a year in staff costs is disheartening and shameful. Please think about not what you might be saving, but what it will cost you in knowledge, care, and time without having the committee there when you vote or accept or reject this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Edith. I know staff wants to speak to the report, but I think, first of all, well, if the council has any questions for Edith, maybe some of your questions will be answered by staff as to why the report was brought forward. Just for the people that are in the room and the people that are watching online, all of our committees are under review right now. Every committee is under review just because we've had a hard time with some of the committees getting quorum, and staff comes and no members come and we can't have the meeting. So there's different situations for every committee as to why they're successful and why they're not. Some of them are very successful and do a lot of good. And Edith is the chair right now of the cemetery committee, and also the tourism committee is which is she's going to speak to now,
Okay.
which is 5.10 on the agenda. And she has the same concerns, obviously, for a different committee. So you might as well go ahead now, and then we'll have staff come up and explain why they've brought this forward. And then if council has any questions for you or to you, they'll ask you then.
Okay, so unfortunately, it's another committee that I'm on. Tourism Advisory Committee, and the beginning part of the presentation is the same because I asked if it had to be two and they said yes. So the beginning part of the presentation is the same, the ending is the same, the meat in the middle is different. So I guess I'll do the whole thing and then it'll reiterate what I said previously. Okay, so good evening, Mayor Bailey, councilors, staff, and members of the public, both here in person and online. My name is Edith Stone, resident of Paris, former business owner and longtime community volunteer. And I'm speaking on behalf of the Brant Community Tourism Committee, and I am here tonight on behalf of the committee to oppose your hired consultants' recommendations to disband this valuable committee. The investigation of the effectiveness of advisory committees was requested by the county at a cost of, and like I said, I wasn't privy to that as of Friday. The findings, again, went to the councilors 2 weeks ago, but it did not include in the report's findings back to the groups, even though there was some information that came from the groups for those reports. And again, it always seems like there's money, that it's only about money, and it's not about what's in the best interest of our community. I'm sure you're all aware, again, that committee as well consists of individuals residing in the county who must go through an application process and be approved to share their time, expertise, and knowledge for free. And again, volunteers are a precious commodity and they're truly valuable and irreplaceable in most organizations. And the report, which the councilors got by one of their own, and had 5 areas that showcase the importance of committees. And I'll just briefly go over that again. Expertise and specialization, the community representation, policy development and implementation, and long-term planning, and the resource optimization. The contributions of the committees can be instrumental in addressing a variety of challenges and ensuring the County of Brant policies and initiatives align with the diverse needs of businesses, residents, and visitors. And without that, the committees, the public, input, that close-knit, caring, small community feel is gone. I have been on this committee since its inception and have participated in its expansive growth. We have 7 to 10 voting members, a good age range, and representation of location in the county. The one member mentioned in the report as out of county was grandfathered to stay on the committee, and I'm happy to say that they have been able to relocate their farm and business back into the county of Brant, and he was welcomed at our last meeting. And we meet monthly except for August, so we do 11 meetings a year where the cemetery board did 6. There was a question as to meeting processes in the report and an issue with quorum. There were 2 committee members with extenuating circumstances. One was a disabled member who had a problem with attending as his nurse was scheduled at the same time as our meeting. And prior to his health issue, county staff had a problem with coordinating his ride to the meeting. He has unfortunately now since passed away. The other member who was always making sure that anything which was proposed or that was implemented, including accessibility, is now in a long-term care facility and did not want it known that he was having some challenges and his family was not aware of the need to notify the group. Resolutions are only made on an as-needed basis to have more impact, and perhaps having our council representative bringing the recommendation forward, for example, the creation of Drinks Fest and the need of an arts heritage culture county staff position, which resulted from our committee. The tourism department did not exist except for one staff member when the advisory committee began. It began when the county didn't really embrace the Two River Outfitters. We all realized at that time the benefit that Garth Pottruff and Jamie Kent's businesses brought to the county by way of tourism and economic impact. Our committee worked very hard to inform the county residents and those beyond what a treasure we had in the county and all that it had to offer. Naturally, with our two rivers, historically, culturally, our rich agriculture, wide range of restaurants, breweries, sporting tournaments, fairs, films, and festivals. Named the cobblestone capital in the prettiest little town, and rightfully so. You wanted our ideas, thoughts, and suggestions on how to showcase and encourage not just day visits, but extended visits to generate spending revenue in the county, and we succeeded 100 times over. The county now has at least 4 additional staff, arts, culture, and heritage position within the last 2 years, special events coordinator, and 2 tourism employees with the help of the marketing department. Members bring forward ideas on a regular basis, for example, farm use accommodations, glamping, which I noticed in a magazine that showcased the mayor today that 6 Nations have started that. Staff welcomes ideas, but it is a long process to get answers and action, as there are many departments to channel through legal, bylaw, planning, etc. When the committee questioned the recent Moneris point of sale report, we don't always get a complete answer, and in this case, it was due to additional costs. When our committee members were notified about the report's recommendations to dissolve this committee, they responded that that's awful and were dismayed at such a critical time in the approaching big dig in downtown Paris, when the merchants were going to need as much support and help as they could possibly get, and the committee is proposed to dissolve. Doesn't make any sense, and the group asked for a presentation to be made at this council's meeting. May I remind you, you asked for our input and participation, and we freely give it, and to be told we are not useful committee, that we are not worth staff costs is disheartening and shameful. Please think about not what you or might be saving, but what it will cost you in knowledge, care, and time without having this committee there when you vote to accept or reject this report. Thank you.
Thank you. And first of all, before we go to staff or council, I'd like to tell you how badly I feel that someone like you who puts so much into the community is just put off by something and disheartened by something. You've always stepped up to the plate. You do whatever we ask you to do in the county of Brandon. For you to be upset, there are reasons. Obviously, we don't bring these things forward just to upset anyone. And I want staff to speak to it. But to have you so disenchanted with the county of Brant is hard for me to hear, and I'm sure hard for the councilors to hear, because we all know what you do for the county of Brant, and I feel badly about that, Edith. Is there any questions to Edith from the council first, before we call on staff to explain why this proposal has come forward? Seeing none, I'm going to call on CEO Allison Newton to speak to it.
Thank you, Your Worship. To Council, I would just like to make a couple of items of clarification for the record. One is we didn't have an outside consultant. This report was prepared internally by our public engagement specialist in conjunction with staff departments. So just to make that clear. And I secondly want to reiterate something the mayor said, because I do not want the impression that that staff, and certainly in this report recommendation, does not appreciate the time and effort and expertise of everyone who volunteers on these committees. It's greatly appreciated, and you know, that the impact is not lost on staff. What we do hope to accomplish through this report, and certainly subject to council consideration, is that we want to find efficiencies in how we engage with the public. So it's not about dissolving the committee, it's about doing it another way. So can we have ad hoc committees? Can we engage broader members of the community? So it's not about not having this input, it's about doing it differently. So I did want to reiterate that, but happy to answer any further questions, and staff who prepared the report are also here.
Council, do you have any questions for staff and or Edith as to why this is before us or in front of us? No? Okay, Edith, thank you. We have 5.2 and 5.10 in front of us. We'll vote on them both together. Motion to receive. Councillor Pierce, seconded by Councillor Bell. All those in favor? We're doing it twice. Thank you. Anyone opposed? Okay. Which takes us to 5.3 on the agenda, which is a request for the renaming of a street. Mark, you're going to come up. And when you get here, if you could just state your name and your address for us, and then you have 10 minutes. Push your button. Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Yes, evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Mark Glover. I reside at 21 McCammon Street, Paris. Not necessarily renaming a street, possibly a new street. 75 years ago, my grandfather was the mayor of this town. And I think it's high time that possibly a street should be named. Not a small street, but maybe a good-sized street in his name, in his honor. It's a simple request. Do it as easily as we can.
Okay. Is there any questions, first of all, to the presenter, Councillor Oakley?
Through the mayor, actually to staff. I believe some time ago, maybe 6 to 8 months ago, we had passed a resolution, or at least a staff recommendation to go back to staff on investigating a larger policy for naming streets, benches, so on and so forth, after previous politicians in the area. I was just curious if there's an update on that, because that might dovetail into this request.
Thank you, through you, your worship. There is a policy in place. I don't have all the details of it in front of me, but we can certainly bring that back, and we can certainly bring something back with the specific request in the context of that policy.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the presenter? Of course, I think it's a great idea to name a street after a mayor. A big street, I would think. A wide street, maybe. For mayors of the future, I mean. Anyway, what does council want to do? I need a motion to receive as information with staff direction to look up the policy and get back to the presenter. Councillor Oakley, seconded by Councillor Kyle. All those in favor? We're going to call you. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
5.4 has been withdrawn. 5.5 is Heather from the Burford Optimist Club, and we know who you are and where you live. So if you'd like to come up, you have 10 minutes, and make sure your mic's right and your button's on. And
I have a presentation.
You have a presentation. Gary, you have a presentation?
No, I just, oh, hiding. Which one is that? This one? No. I sent it in. Oh, yeah. Well, I can get started, and then, because then the rest won't make sense if I don't have the PowerPoint. So thank you so much for having me here tonight, Mr. Mayor, council members, staff, and importantly, community members sitting there in the chairs. My name is Heather Keem, and I am the incoming Vice President for the Burford Optimist Club. I'm a Scout leader, a founding member of the Burford Connects group, a co-lead for the Burford Skate Park, which just got launched on Monday, I love Burford, and I love Brant County. I'm not here as a grumpy taxpayer. I'm here as a community partner. Why I'm here? When I was booking the fields for the Burford Optimist baseball, I was told that there would, is it ready? Yeah. Okay. Oh, he's getting there. The arrows? Okay. I was told that this was my last year of the free diamonds, and that the new partnership policy has been written, and it means that we will be treated like every other group who books a county facility. We booked a meeting, I looked up the policy, and I thought, you know what, we've got to do something. I booked a meeting with 9 clubs, 15 people, to review the policy. We did an exercise that we talked about, what do we like about it? What would we alter? What is missing? And what should we remove? We presented the results to 4 senior staff on June 23rd and explained that the policy could just use a little improvement to support the clubs and groups, especially those with long history with the county. We were sent the revisions and we felt like we're still not quite being listened to. And we wrote back our concerns on August 9th. Thank you, Stacey, for replying today. But up until today, we had not heard anything. And so the next step was to come here. For the past 42 years, the Burford Optimist has been supporting the Burford community through donations and fundraisers. That's our only means of income. We support local children, youth programs such as the BPSA Scouting, dance clubs, hockey, grade 8 graduations, we give 2 awards anniversary, essay contest, and a high school bursary, and so much more. The club plans yearly community events such as the Easter egg hunt, the skate with Santa, bike rodeo, spring cookout, and more recently, we started a baseball league with the South Oxford Softball League. As you can see, our club has a lot of expertise, a lot of history, and a lot of experience. 42 years of working with the county. We know that budgets all across Canada are tight, and the county is looking at cutting costs. Don't you think the long-term existing groups are a great investment? As you can see on the slide here, we put so much money and volunteer time into the community. Times are tough right now economically, and also there's a decrease in volunteerism and pretty much civic engagement. How can we alter this policy so that it supports groups in these tough times and beyond? We are here today because we believe in the written purpose of the partnership policy, but feels like it just needs to be improved in some areas so that it is representative of the diversity of the groups and clubs that make up this amazing county. We are really confused about the actual real purpose of this policy. We keep hearing from staff and from counselors that our purpose of the policy is to bring all groups under the same umbrella so that it's easier to work with the groups. However, the policy states that the purpose of the policy is to enhance leadership, communication, and engagement of county groups, build capacity of groups, and sustain programs that the department doesn't have the resources to implement. We are asking for a policy to be transparent, focus on equity, not equality, and meet the clubs where they're at and provide supports that are useful. Oops. There are implications when we try to treat everyone the same. There's so much diversity in groups and clubs that this policy is trying to bring diverse groups, very different diverse groups, together. We have short-term groups under 10 years, and we have long-term groups. Actually, I'm going to say medium groups, which is 10 to 20 years, and long-term groups, which is 20 to 50 years. We have sports groups, but in sports groups, there's a huge diversity of sports. In service clubs, which I'm proud to say we've got several of them here, and Lions function different than Optimists that functions different than Masons. The groups are in different towns, and I'm from a rural community, and we know that each town functions differently, and we function differently in our towns. We have different targets: youth, athletes, neighbors, seniors. And we also have different lengths of functioning: one-off, sports season only, all year. All the clubs and groups have different purposes, different needs, different challenges, and resources that are needed to survive. Yes, a policy that brings them all together is a great idea, but there needs to be just more thought about how to acknowledge these differences, how to support these differences, so that we can actually be supported and partnering. This is an email that I sent into, my club, sent into response the last time, but I'm not going to focus on that. The Burford Club is deeply committed to the County of Brant, especially the Burford community, which is why we are passionate about the proposed partnership policy. We have invested nearly 20 hours of our time, uncompensated, we don't get paid, to thoroughly review the policy, convene 9 groups to get feedback, meet with staff and others, compile follow-up summaries, review the subsequent edits. We are committed to working with staff to make this policy better. The burden placed on these clubs to apply, comply, and align with the county strategy is significant for community groups that are all volunteers. Yet the tangible benefits for the clubs in doing a lot of this investment into this is minimal, limited primarily to discounts and facility uses, which all depend on staffing. We are told that engagement for this policy was very, very low. The club realizes this and wants to start to build a partnership now and work with the county to make this even better. This will set up the staff so that when they need engagement in the community, the clubs will step up. Some ideas are the county shares the county strategy with the clubs, sit down with them, outline where the needs are, how can we support, and come up with a plan together. More support for sustainability. We need help with volunteerism. We need a volunteer campaign. We need help in knowing so people know where to volunteer. It's about building relationships and trust, not about putting everyone in the same bucket because it's easier. This policy has the potential to help both staff and groups to work smarter, not harder. This policy feels more like a service agreement. This is supposed to be a partnership policy. Partnership. We just want a chance to partner with staff. We want a seat at the table to talk and share our knowledge and expertise to enhance this partnership policy. We are not saying no to the policy. We are saying that we're truly sorry that we've missed out on the engagement process. But we're committed and passionate now, and we want to work with staff to make this the best partnership policy in Ontario. And you can't do this if you pass this policy as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, questions of the presenter. Councillor Miller, you're first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Ms. Keene. I do like your little diagram on equality versus equity. I think that's excellent. I know we struggle with it here at the county level, and we talked about when we're doing our strategic plan. How do we treat different communities equitable? So, for example, you don't treat Glenmorris the same as Scotland as the same as St. George. They have different needs. So, and I think that applies to the service clubs, as you were saying. So, correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, but it sounds like you're not against the policy per se. You're just, you think it can be tweaked or at least fixed up enough so that the groups aren't all treated equally, they're treated equitably. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct. We do support the policy. I'm all about partnerships. I think in terms of the way we need to go is community and council and staff need to meet in the middle, because that's how we're going to be able to make our places the best place to live. And so to do that, when you do just equality, as you can see, the service clubs are the yellow, it's actually gone now there, but the service clubs are the shorter people. When you make them equal, they're still short. So how do we just bump up those who need the support and change it? And this policy is more blanket. I want to say cookie cutter. And I think that that's going to do some damage, especially for the long-term service providers that do so much and go so beyond. So we're not asking to abolish this, stop it, don't go any further. We just ask that, can we sit at the table and can we meet in the middle? Because we're just feeling like we're just talking past each other, and we just really want to make this a partnership.
Okay. As a short person, I can appreciate that.
Any other questions? Councillor Chambers, you're next.
Again, just for clarity, this Heather's Club is a club that I belong to. I've been an Optimist Club member before I was a councilor member, so I've been there a long time too. I admit that I kind of went into semi-retirement from the service club, but Heather and I had a conversation last night, so this is not going to come as a surprise to her. But I just wanted to go back to, it was, I think, May or early June when the policy first came on to the counselor's desk. And at that time, there was a lot of reaction, particularly on social media, which is sometimes can be good, sometimes can be bad. And I have a quote from one of the posts that appeared on social media. I'm just wondering if you might want to respond to it. And this post, when I looked at it, had 14 likes. And I think we all know what that is, that people read it and they like it. But and here's the post. And I quote, "Don't those idiots realize what service clubs do for their communities?" And I'm assuming the idiots are referring to the members of council. And I don't know whether that was said in jest or said seriously, but I think it deserves a response from some of the service clubs, because if it was up to me, I don't think we're idiots. And I think we do realize what service clubs do for their community. But I'm wondering if you just respond to those kind of comments, maybe for the benefit of the council.
So I can't respond for that comment, but I kind of want to go a little bit general here. COVID has some long-term effects on people, and the people are grumpy. They're grumpy, and there's a lot of polarization that's happening within towns and across the country. And so we're also not treating each other like human beings. And so I think that what's happening is there's a lack of distrust in municipal government. We all have seen that. We know that. We're seeing the data from that. And so I think it comes down to not being heard, lack of trust, lack of relationships, and also how do we dialogue? Right now there's a lot of debate happening. And so how do we dialogue? And so I think with the service clubs, COVID really hurt us. Our volunteers are down. We're trying to figure out how to get back into the community, how to support a community that is grumpy. The economic downturn, people don't have the money to go and do fun things in the community that they have to pay for. And we rely on these grumpy community members to dig deep in their pockets. With the economic downturn, we're not seeing that money come in. And so clubs are very fearful about having to close their doors. And it is clubs all across Canada every day are closing. And we know that clubs
are vital to the health of our communities. And so take it with a grain of salt in that I think it's showing passion of the person. It is showing the commitment to the community. But there's also a great opportunity here for the county to step up and say, how can we dialogue? How can we come together and meet in the middle? How can we turn this grumpiness into something useful? Thank you.
Councillor Chambers.
And I just want to thank Heather for making a presentation that was not adversarial. And I think we all agree that we can work together into the future. And hopefully, if we do that, council members won't be considered as idiots, which I don't think we are. But again, thank you for your presentation. It was nice to hear a presentation that is not adversarial and combative. It was a good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions to the delegation? Councillor Kyle.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you to the delegation. I also appreciate that the presentation wasn't adversarial, and as a former Rotarian myself, I definitely have an appreciation for all that these service clubs do. I guess my question to you is, and it's something that we have to consider as council, is if let's say we make a deal that's different with Burford and you guys can continue to have free use of the diamonds, for example, how do you suggest we speak to other groups in other towns where they are acting, or they're having to pay for the use of the diamonds in their town, and they may also be service club members or other nonprofit organizations? So I'm just curious on what your suggestion might be, going back to that equity equality.
Yes, yeah. Thank you. That's a really good point, and I actually think you just brought up another diversity issue. In that, the service clubs usually are the ones who fundraise and build the infrastructures, not build them, but actually get them into the community. And so the example is the baseball diamonds and the pavilion and the T-ball diamond that is in Burford. And so how can we take taxpayers' money that's donated to the optimists, who then use that to build the community, and then we have to use the taxpayers' money that they've donated to the optimists to pay for the facilities that the club supported to build that is using taxpayers' money. And so I think it's like the optics of charging service clubs where we get our money from the taxpayers. So they're almost paying twice for it. But the biggest issue is we built it and then we have to pay for it. So I think there needs, part of this policy, it really needs to be, how do we come to agreements? How do we, I know we built the splash pad and the county said, we have to upgrade that splash pad. No problem. We fundraised $20,000 and replaced it. So the service clubs are there long term. A lot of the other clubs are just coming in, doing their thing, and they're leaving. So the investment is deeper with service clubs than it is with some of the other clubs. That's another difference with these clubs.
Any other questions? No. Well, thank you for presenting tonight. I too hate that post that you read, Robert, because every morning since I've been mayor, I thank service clubs, community boosters, and volunteers every single morning for 5 years now, 6 years, whatever I've been. And I just went through a weekend of Apple Fest, which wouldn't have happened without the Lions Club, without the volunteers, the pipe bands, all the things that make Apple Fest a wonderful thing. I look out here and all my favorite people are here, Marilyn and all the service clubs they represent. And I hate the fact that somebody said that on Facebook. I just hate it because you know what? It's not what I'm all about. But and the world is full of nasty people, right? Nobody knows it more than I do. and this council does, and our staff does, but mostly me, I think. I take a lot of bullets for the county, and I don't care. I signed up for it, and I'm pretty tough, tougher than you think. And I'm not going anywhere, I hope. And I know how miserable people are, and I know what COVID did, because I was the mayor during COVID, and we didn't miss a beat. We came out of it financially stable and secure, and we did a good job. I understand what it did to families. I understand what it did to service clubs. I understand what it did to violence and family dynamics. I sit on the police board, and you wouldn't believe the statistics that I saw, and I'm still seeing because of COVID. So I don't hide in my office. I'm out there. I've been a Rotarian since I was 17, since 1975. So I know what it's like about commitment and service clubs. I know what it's all about, and I hate that you people are coming here. Just like I said with Edith, you know, the handful of people that always step up are the ones that are hurt because things have to claw back or change. And COVID had a lot to do with that. Economic times, as was just stated, has a lot to do with that. But it's not the councillors and the mayor that you represented. You represented good people. You have a wonderful council here. And none of us think any of this is great. And we wish that you weren't coming here for this reason tonight. But you are, and we have to have it in front of us. And what do you want to do with the presentation? Looking for a motion to receive. Thank you, Councillor Coleman and Councillor Pierce. All those in favor to receive? Opposed? Move on to 5.6, please. Brenda, Optimist Club of Scotland and District. I bet I know what you're going to say, too. If you can just give us your name and your address, please, and you have 10 minutes.
Testing? Good. Perfect. Mayor Bailey and County Councillors, good evening, and thank you for allowing me a few minutes to come to speak to you tonight. Thanks also to the community members that are here. My name is Brenda Yeomans, and I'm the president-elect of the Scotland and District Optimist Club, and I live at 30 Peter Street in Scotland. I'm here to speak about the importance of service clubs, which I can tell just from listening to you already that you're well aware of, and to share some of the contributions that are being made by our Optimist Club in Scotland. Also to reiterate the belief that we believe there is a difference between clubs who service others and clubs who service themselves. Both are necessary, but they're definitely different. I am concerned that some of the community partner policy may put some of us at risk as our members kind of step back and are a little nervous. I do want to tell you a bit about the Optimist Club and the things that we contribute. So an Optimist Club, as you know, provides community services specifically aimed at enhancing the well-being of the children in their community. Every club, as Heather said, operates independently and selects which programs they provide to their community. Our club has been an integral, important part of the Scotland and District community for over 30 years, and I think we're probably one of the younger service clubs in Burford, or in Brant, so we're the baby of the service clubs. Service club members pay dues for the privilege of serving others. We have 35 members. We're proud to have some that have been there for over 30 years since day one. We're excited that we actually have a few new members because it's really hard to get new members. And then we have a lot of members that are just tried and true and have been with us for years. And all they want to do is make a positive impact on the community. They don't want to come to council. They love you guys. They love the county. They just want to show up, do some good work for the kids, and get on with their lives. So our club purchased a Scotland Optimist Park in 1996. So we raised the funds to build the ball diamond, the parking, the pavilion, the playground, and the concession booth. A huge commitment for a little community to do that, both in terms of volunteering and securing funds. We continue to own and operate and maintain the park. Funds are secured through a grant, through ongoing fundraising initiatives, and through our successful community outreach program that exists only because of how closely our community is connected to the members. And not to mention countless volunteer hours. In 2018, our Optimist Club was instrumental in the conversion of the school to a community center. That was a true partnership between the county, the daycare, the Optimist Club, and the community. We value the 2018 Community Partner Agreement, which includes our Optimist Room and until 2023 complimentary use of some of the spaces in the center. It's an important facility for the community. Just to let you know a few of the programs that we provide at low or no cost to our community. We have T-ball and soccer. We have youth dances. We have an Easter egg hunt. We do a holiday horse and trolley ride, and we pray for snow for Christmas every year because rain is not a good way to have your horses out. We do a Halloween walk. We do breakfast with Santa. We fundraise for the Oakland, Scotland school. We provide holiday gift cards for families in our community that are in need. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, we operate and maintain our Optimist Park. We have a few marquee fundraiser events that we do. We have the Summer Barbecue Dance and Silent Auction, and I'd like to thank the Mayor and Councillors Miller and Chambers for being regular attendees at that event. It's a lot of fun. We do quarter auctions and we do draws. In addition to operate within our budget, as I mentioned earlier, we have a really aggressive outreach program where we're begging for labor and we're begging for product and we're begging for professional services to get things done on budget. A quick calculation showed that our members volunteered over 1,800 hours of labor last year to make the club come together in Scotland. So I know that the county is investing, and you guys know that the county invests in service clubs, but it sounds like a pretty solid investment if you do the math just on the labor. That's probably $50,000 worth of free labor that we're getting to maintain it. So as we go forward, our partnership with the county is of paramount importance to us. It allows us to continue and hopefully further enhance the lives of the people living in our area. We're immensely appreciative of our relationships with people like Matt Darby, Sarah Dredge, and Stacey Ellens for all the support that they provided us over years. You're too young to do decades, but years. And we think it's reasonable to request that service clubs have a separate set of operating guardrails. Collectively, we operate hundreds of activities and programs to our community and raise tons of money for the infrastructure, a good example being the skateboarding park. So service members, we volunteer our time, energy, and money because we care. We join to make a difference, and we don't join to fight City Hall. We just want to come to and volunteer and be happy with everybody and make life good. And I worry that our members will leave if they find that it's more than they can handle having to, pay incremental funds and we have less money for programs for our community. So to summarize, I believe there is a difference between service clubs that service others and other clubs that have their own membership. And I think there's an opportunity to tweak the policy to reflect that difference. Both are super important to the community, but have different mandates. So my thought would be that we exclude service clubs from the community policy that's currently in place, and that we partner with Parks and Rec and the service clubs to come up with a real true partnership agreement that works for everybody to deal with our mandates and make life good for our communities. That we maintain our previous levels of support for the service clubs, and that we obviously continue to invest in service clubs because they are incredibly important. I believe that the county and service clubs share one goal, and that's to make the lives of the residents of Brant better. And that's all we're here to do. And I know that speaking for all the service clubs and all of the members, we just want to keep bringing more relevant programs and more exciting programs to our communities. So thank you very much, and thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Council, any questions for the presenter? Councillor Bell.
Thank you. Mr. Matt, through Brenda. The term self-serving, the benefit of people listening, can you be a bit more specific?
Well, I mean like a club where it's a membership. So it's the sports clubs, the skating clubs, where there's a group of people, and self-serving probably doesn't sound like a very nice term, does it? No, it's kind of like the sanctioned one that we didn't like, right? So, yeah, so I mean clubs that have a membership, they sign up for a specific purpose, and then they move on. So you join a hockey club when your kids are in hockey, and then when your kids are on doing basketball, you stop the hockey club and go to basketball. And so they have membership fees, and they raise money, absolutely, but for their closed group. Whereas for us, what we get out of it is, yes, camaraderie, but more about doing good for others. So I need to come up with another term. You're right, self-serving isn't very nice.
I knew you wouldn't like the term self-serving when you heard it back. Any other questions for the delegation? Councillor Chambers, then Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, I just wanted to make a point about the what I'll call historical agreements between service clubs and the municipality. And the Scotland Alpines Club is an excellent example of just that. Going back to 1996, there was an agreement between the former township of Burford and the Scotland Optimist Club with regard to the Scotland Optimist Park.
Right.
And over time, sometimes the verbiage and the intents get confused and lost in the shuffle. Three of the original signers of that agreement back in Burford Township have passed away. And I know some of the people in Scotland that were involved with that have gone on. County staff has changed incredibly since 1996. It was the former Township of Burford staff that originated this. My point is this, that you need to really keep track of these agreements, because successive councils and successive members in the staff and the club itself lose sight of these agreements, and all of a sudden there may be suggested changes that are contrary to the original agreement. And that is something that the policy really needs to be aware of, because there are historical agreements between municipalities and service clubs that need to continue, because that's in essence how they were founded. So.
Yeah, you know what, that's an amazing point, because when we were a small community, there were probably lots of things that went into place. Some of them were handshakes, and some of them maybe weren't documented that are kind of as visible as they should be. So yes, thank you for that.
What is lost is the intent
right.
of what the agreements were. We intended to do this, and that is hard to perpetuate over time, and that cannot be lost. You have another example with the community center. There's an agreement in place, signed, I believe, by Mayor Bailey, or could have been Mayor Eddy, I don't know. But anyway, these agreements are really important, because this policy does not want to impinge on historical agreements. And keep your books up to date on those agreements, because we're not going to be around forever.
Thank you.
Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just building on Councillor Bell's comment earlier, self-serving, or however you want to call it. If I want to play hockey, I got to pay a fee. If I want to use the Optimist Park, I'm free to use it. Anybody's free to use it, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And I just want to ask you, Brenda, through you, Mr. Mayor, the same question I asked Heather. The messaging seems somewhat similar in that the policy itself is the policy itself, but you don't have a major problem with it, other than it could be tweaked and maybe.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's semantics, right? And it's really just working together to make sure that there's the same interpretation of the wording and then the tweaking to it. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Councillor Oakley.
Through the mayor, just either to staff or to the delegation. I suppose I'm a little confused by the delegations tonight. Not to their purpose, I understand that, but as to the timing, it was my understanding that when this was brought before us in May, that we had sent this back to staff to work with service groups like yours to go through and do this additional consultation, which seems to be the purpose of these delegations. So I'm a little confused by these delegations coming forward when that, to my understanding, is still in process, still happening, and still yet to come back to us. So I suppose I'm a little confused there as to the purpose of these delegations, given that what you're asking for, which is additional consultation, is actively happening and actively going to come back in a future date. So
I'm going to let Mr. Met speak.
Through the chair. So yeah, it's a good question. So we're actually planning to come back to admin and ops in November, and we're still in the midst of addressing the comments. So there's been a couple of iterations. There's been a bit of a time lag due to our vacations and stuff that happened in August, and we realized that we didn't acknowledge some comments just a couple of days ago. although we've been working on them. So we sent a quick letter when we realized that out to the groups to say sorry about not acknowledging, because we were quite honestly caught off guard by the delegations coming today. We would have expected, we still have more work to do with them. There's still some tweaking we're working on. And there has been a lot of collaboration and a lot of work put into it, both from staff and the group. So it's okay. I mean, it's good information we received today, and we'll carry on and bring it back in November.
Thank you for that answer. Councillor Miller?
Just to Councillor Oakley's question, that policy was originally to come back in September, and that policy was supposed to come back today for September. It was pushed off to November, but many of the service groups didn't get that message till quite late.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions to the delegation? Seeing none, looking for a motion to receive. Councillor Miller and Councillor McAlpine, all those in favor? And the next thing on my agenda is 5.7, which is Mr. Bell from the Burford Lions Club. And just your name and your address, please, Mr. Bell.
The last two delegates said it all for us here for the service clubs, that's for sure. I do have a short statement I'd like to make. Thanks very much, Mayor, for giving me the opportunity to speak to council. Thanks very much. My name is Warren Bell, and I am the past president of the Burford Lions Club. Next year, the Burford Lions Club will be celebrating 80 years of service to the Burford community. Our membership consists of 23 members, 17 who are active. Years ago, we had over 40 members and served hundreds for our annual fish fry dinner and brought in over $30,000. We now have only 2 fundraisers through the year, the Lions Cash Draw at Christmas and a stage performance in November, bring in approximately $13,000 to $15,000 in revenue combined. We also have a pancake breakfast that was basically offered to the community with very little profit. Our overhead is minimal. However, for example, if we were charged $100 for every meeting we have in the hall at the arena, a total of 20 meetings per year, that would substantially affect the takeaway from our funds. Practically every dollar that we fundraise goes back to the community and area charity groups. Last term, we donated the local food banks, the Burford Elementary and Scotland Public Schools, to help purchase playground equipment. We financially supported Burford Optimists to help them to build their skate park. We also contributed $10,000 to Brant County for the resurfacing of Lions Way, and the list goes on. Very similar to other service groups, added expense for rental of Brant County property would make it financially and increasingly hard to provide to the community. I would ask council to consider your decision on the future of our service clubs in Brant County. Thanks again, council members and Mayor Bailey, for allowing me to speak on behalf of the Brant County Service Clubs. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Mr. Bell. Anybody have anything to say to the delegation? Any concerns, questions, Councilor Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One question to Warren. Warren, Heather and Brenda touched on it, and I think you can also maybe contribute to that discussion, is the service clubs have helped build, right? Many facilities. And the Lions Club, and I remember this well, helped with the Burford Community Center, which we called the Burford Arena way back when. In that Burford Community Center, this is, when I read the policy, I thought, it wasn't sitting right with me, because here's a facility, and you mentioned the fish fry, and you guys have rented it in the past, but I think under this policy, you guys would be asked to pay the same as another group, right? When it was the Lions that helped build it in the first place. What are your thoughts on that? Paying the same as another group when it was the Lions that helped build it?
You're right, David. We did, I've heard it was even built. I've only been with the club for 5 years. I heard that arena was even helped built by the Lions of Burford. And yeah, I think we deserve to have a little extra from the county because we have contributed over the years, not only to that arena, but also to the community in other ways. So yes, I think that we should not have to pay for it.
Okay, thank you, Warren.
Councillor Chambers.
Just again, going back to historical agreements, there is an agreement in place that has probably been in place for 80 years, and it rears its head once in a while. When the Lions or the Burford Arena was built, it was basically the impetus of the Lions Club that started everything. But there was a commitment that what we call the community center, what the Lions call the Lions Den, was to be used as long as the arena was there by the Lions Club for their meetings. And it's never been charged, or it shouldn't be charged. And that's one of these historical agreements that has been in place. Maybe the paperwork is long gone, but the handshakes are still there. And that was a commitment made by the former township of Burford, many councils before mine, and it has been perpetuated. So those are the kind of things that can't be overlooked, even though there may not be in writing, but there is an agreement that the Lions Den to be used by the Lions Club for their contributions in the beginning of the building of the arena.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other questions for the delegation? Seeing none, I see this information tonight as new information. I don't. I probably won't be the most popular man in the staff room after tonight because I'm looking for a deferral. I don't want to accept this for information. I want to send it back to staff. I see a clear path in another way here. I personally think that. I know I can't bring it up myself. I'm looking for a motion to defer this back to staff for another way forward. Councillor Miller?
Well, just, Mr. Mayor, I mean, I'll move to receive. At the same time, I know staff have met with the groups as well. And there isn't a report tonight before us. Again, it's not to come back until November. That's what's scheduled. So I'm not sure if we need a deferral.
Well, I just think personally myself that there is some sort of privilege that's not being carried forward. I know it was presented to the city of Brantford came to us, if you remember, last year and wanted us to pay a surplus for using the Gretzky Center. And I suggested they look on their wall of donations, and the donations came from the county, and it was completely nervy of them to ask us to pay any kind of a premium for an arena or a center that the county people, if not for about 4 big names, they wouldn't have the Gretzky Center. And to ask us to pay a premium to use the Gretzky Center was pretty nervy, and it didn't go anywhere. But that's why it didn't go anywhere, because I referred them back to their own wall of donations. And that's kind of how I'm feeling again tonight, is that there's something that's not happening here that's more proper or more fitting. I guess I've sold enough raffle tickets in my life to understand that something doesn't seem right to me. Councillor Pierce.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think we just heard tonight that they're still discussing it. So right. I with Councillor Miller here, I don't think a deferral is necessary. I think we received this. As was mentioned, that it's new information that's come tonight. Talks are still ongoing, and there's no decision on anything, to my understanding, until that report comes back in November.
Councillor Bell?
Yeah, maybe I didn't quite hear you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think you said deferral.
I did.
I thought you said referral.
Maybe I should have.
Yeah, because I think referring all this information to staff, they've already got it. But what struck my mind was when we did budgeting, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, I asked the question, to what degree, and I meant by how much, do we subsidise our community? And I think one dimension I never really thought about was how you actually leverage what we subsidise. And I think what I've heard tonight is there's a kind of leverage you get from a service club that you don't get from paying money to the hockey club of somewhere out in the county. Not to name a particular hockey club. But I think that dimension I would like staff to reflect on when they come back with their report, that how can we best use the offices, the volunteer capacity of service clubs to get the most out of it for our whole community. And that's a dimension I still think we thought about before.
I just think with the growth that we're experiencing everywhere, and it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop, and we can't stop it. And at the end of the day, all we have is rodeos and apple fests and fall fairs and all of that stuff that keeps us small, even in our own minds. Because someday, very soon, we're not going to know all of our neighbors. And at the end of the day, we have to come back to what made us move here or farm here or have us. And we have to protect all that stuff. That is all we're going to be left with in 20 years. In 20 years, what we can save is what we'll have, and the rest becomes new or different. And we can't stop it, and we have to save what we can save. So if council's wish is to just accept it tonight as information, that's fine, as long as staff was listening to what was done here tonight. I just don't want this to be missed. What happened tonight, I don't want it to be missed. So with that being said, it's on the floor. It's been seconded.
I can certainly make a friendly amendment that we receive and refer back to staff.
That's perfect. It has a seconder in Councillor Pierce. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 5.8 takes us to another delegation. It's not the same issue. That's why I stopped it sort of there. And the next two delegations are about something completely different. And that is going to be 123 Middle Town Road. Dan, you're here? Oh, Courtney?
Good evening, Council, Mayor Bailey. My name is Courtney Boyd, and I'm agent for the applicant on item number 10.5 on your agenda this evening. Dan is the planner on this matter, so simple confusion. You might recall us being present last week or last meeting to receive the application for information. At that time, there was no comments from the community nor any questions from council. I'm just present tonight should that have changed given the fact that last meeting was so long. And if this fell off your radar and you have any questions, I'm happy to address them this evening.
Thank you. Are there any questions to the presenter? I don't think anyone has changed anything. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you. Motion to receive, please. Councillor Oakley. Councillor Kyle, all those in favor? Thank you. Which takes us to our last delegation, which is 5.9, which is Ella Haley. Ella, if you want to come up. I didn't even see you there.
Yeah, no worries. This one? And then how do I click it? Just okay. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. As I sat here listening to the service clubs, I realized that the Langford Conservancy is a service club. We do a lot of things that like you do, but tonight I'm not going to speak about our work to make an inclusive community or help newcomers or seniors. Those are our three areas: newcomers, seniors, and farmers. And then in general, we operate a rural community hub. I'm the cleaning lady for free. And so we operate a rural community hub. It's the former Langford Schoolhouse. Okay. So I hope I can operate this properly. Okay, so this is the Langford Schoolhouse, and we worked very hard to make it accessible and to fix the drainage. When we bought it from the county, it had a lot of drainage problems. We're still working on that. It's been a lot of volunteer hours, a lot of expense, but people love our ramp. We have, and so people use it quite a bit. We now have a sign out front, and this fall I would say that we're probably
getting 3 times the inquiries on rentals for parties, weddings, celebration of life, whatever. It holds about 50 people seated. So, okay. So I'm focusing more on our work for farmers, and we run these workshops. We run a few of these. These are tools for protecting farmland, and I'm just going to elaborate a tiny bit on the key points there. We teach people about conservation easements, how to protect your own farmland where you still own it. You can protect it, and even after you die, it's protected. And you work with a land trust. You can form a farming cooperative to help reduce the cost of farmland for new farmers who find the farmland prices exorbitant. And ground leases, you can, in fact, in some communities, farmers are able to just own the buildings. So it helps new farmers. We really work on workshops to help new farmers. And so ground leases help you to own the buildings, and maybe the land is owned by a land trust, but you own the buildings, and therefore you have some equity and you can improve on the buildings. It gives you equity in the operation. Long-term leases, growing the greenbelt would also protect Brant County. We've worked very hard on that. And community bonds, some not-for-profits are able to, and we're not-for-profit, they're able to raise money through community bonds. The community invests in a project such as buying a farm for young people where they could have a farming co-op. We also have been doing landowner conservation workshops. There's wonderful grants out there to help farmers and landowners to protect their land, to plant trees, to fix culverts, to put in wetlands. There's just wonderful grants out there right now. But the problem we find when we work with Nancy Van Sass from the Ontario Soil and Crop Improvement Association, she says a lot of farmers are busy, they don't like the paperwork, and so they hire somebody. Even if they don't get the grant, they have to pay for it. And so we decided we're going to teach farmers how to do it. So we run these workshops. Okay, this is my mom and dad, and this is part of their farm. This is Jim and Margaret Haley. And so this is a conservation easement. We're the very first protected farm in Brant County. They protected about 33 acres. They worked with the Ontario Farmland Trust, and so they protected, oops, sorry, I'm going the wrong way. Yeah, this is part of the forest that they protected. There's farmland there, there's a pond, 2-acre pond, and there's forest with some old growth forest. So it was very close to their heart, and they protected it, and I'm very proud of them for doing that. Oops, sorry. We really are losing a lot of farmland. The OFA changed their figures. It used to be that we were losing 175 acres daily with the 2016 census. Since then, the OFA has changed their figure to 319 acres per day lost farmland. That's equal to about 9 family farms each week that we're losing. And we have to remember our population is growing, but we only have 5% land for growing food and raising livestock. I wanted to look just for a moment now at a problem that's growing in Langford. Even tonight, before I came, I looked behind the Langford schoolhouse, and there's 3 transport trucks behind me and behind the schoolhouse. And if I looked one farm over, there's about 4 transport trailers parked in the driveway on that farm. So there's a lot of concern. There's a neighbor who told me during the election, he said, you know, the man behind me made a big trucking parking lot. And the man that was telling me is a trucker. He has 1 truck, but he said behind me is a big illegal trucking parking lot. So it's a big problem everywhere, and I wanted to address it. Storing trucks and equipment on property that's not zoned is an illegal use. We've worked a bit with Mark Dorfman, and he's mentioned that it's a problem in many municipalities. So I've turned to Caledon tonight to show you some examples of what they're doing, because it's a real problem there, and they've tried to address it and also contact the Premier about it. So some of the key impacts, though, are losing agricultural farmland, environmental pollution, whether it's contaminated fill coming in, destroying woodlots, and I'll show you a picture, or groundwater contamination, and then noise, traffic safety, intrusive lighting. Those are some of the key problems. A key problem, I'm taking notes here from Caledon, is that, and there's weak deterrence, there are ineffective fines, there's slow enforcement, and Mark Dorfman is arguing from the other municipalities that he's worked with is that often the offender pays the fine, it's just the cost of doing business. So they may pay the fine and they just keep on doing it. Here's an example. This is from Caledon staff. They did a staff report. This is on the left, a farmland, and 3 years later, a truck parking lot, illegal. This is a forest. Okay, 2020, 3 years later, no forest. It's all trucks. This is another piece of farmland, prime farmland, in 2018. 5 years later, it's all trucks. And this is the concern, again, from Caledon here about soil being dumped, not knowing the source of the soil, contamination from trucks, from fuel, from gas and oil, diesel. This is the impact for the municipality. Caledon's very worried about the cost of roads when you have these illegal trucking depots. This is the damage that's being caused. So this is the Caledon mayor, I forget her name, and she has approached the premier, and so these are the key, sorry, just step back for a minute here. Yeah. So she's asking if the province could change the municipal act so that municipalities can be more proactive on this, to help them. They're saying that if you have illegal land use with significant detrimental impacts, they want the right to be able to physically bar entry to that property. Right now, you don't have that right. They would like to see the fines increased. So they want the Planning Act changed. So increase the maximum penalty to $50,000 for an individual if they're convicted. And on a subsequent conviction, not more than $25,000 for each day in which the contravention has continued after the day in which the person was convicted. If it's a corporation, they want the corporation is liable to fines of not more than $100,000 upon the first conviction and not more than $50,000 for each day in which the contravention continued after they were convicted. So I think they've saved a lot of time for other municipalities. I think it's something for us to look at in Brant County. And we're just asking you, we love Langford, and we're just asking you to help us to continue to protect Langford farmland and natural heritage. And there is one of my parents' trees. That's me in the forest today. Thank you.
Thanks, Ella. Are there any questions to the delegation? Councillor Oakley?
This is the mayor to the delegation. Thank you, Ella, for your passion and dedication to this advocacy. Though it's not directly related to the illegal usage of lands as you addressed in your presentation, I just want to let you know that most recently the county did delegate to the Minister of Agriculture on fleshing out the tool to allow us to use agricultural impact assessments to protect farmland. So we are working on this file, just so that you are aware.
Okay, sorry, if you could just repeat that. I couldn't hear you that well. What were you asking?
Sorry.
You were saying that they are asking the province?
The county has advocated to the province for more tools to protect farmland. So I just wanted to let you know that
Okay.
we are working on this file.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your passion, your advocacy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Looking for a motion to receive. Councillor Bell, Councillor Oakley, all those in favor? Take a 10-minute recess. Okay, we're back in session and we are at number 6 on the agenda, which is the adoption of the minutes from the previous meetings. And there's 4 sets of meetings. Do you want to move them together? Councillor Pierce wants to move together. He's got a seconder, and Councillor Oakley. Does anyone want any separated? Seeing none, we'll move all 4 together. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. Which takes us to number 7 on the agenda, which is the business arising from any of those sets of minutes. There can't be, because we would have brought them up before. So we'll go into number 8, which is consent items. Consent items to be approved. Heather Boyd, any questions for Heather on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Oh, Councillor Bell. Yep.
I'm just interested to know what triggered this. Was it just the Baird and Ellis, whatever the name is, just saying, oh, now we'll do an investigation?
Heather Boyd, if you want to speak to 1.1.1.1 for Councillor Bell.
I'm sorry, if there was a question, I couldn't hear it over the cough.
So my question, Heather, was what triggered this?
What triggered this was a complaint made about a closed meeting that the county had. And so this is why they undertake it as part of the process under legislation.
Do we know, or are we allowed to ask who made that complaint?
I do not know. I don't believe we are entitled to that information. It's an anonymous process.
Mr. Mayor?
Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, the one question I have on it is the fact that as chair of that meeting, the first time I was made aware of any issue was when I read it in our report. So, in the report, it says that it spoke to a few people. I would have suggested that potentially, as chair of that committee, I would have been made aware of something, and I wasn't. So that kind of didn't sit too well with me either.
Heather, can you speak to any of it? It seems a little funny, but
Yeah, I don't know who they investigated, who they spoke to. I have no details. I don't think any of that's released in the document. This document is all I've had to go off of either.
any other questions? All those in favor to receive? Opposed? Carried. Takes us to 8.2, consent items to be received. There's a few of them. Does anyone want any of them separated? Councillor Miller?
8.2.3.
8.2.3. Any others to be separated? If not, we'll vote on everything but 8.2.3. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And Councillor Miller, 8.2.3.
Yeah, I apologize for bringing this up, but it just drives me nuts. We passed a resolution opposite to the city of Brantford's support of getting rid of the gas pipeline subsidy. And then they go on to extol the virtues of electric heat pumps, and I'll say that heat pumps are fine. It's the electricity that runs them that can be problematic. A lot of the electricity that runs the heat pumps is produced by natural gas, and I'll explain that because the IESO put out an RFP for new production of electricity in the province. They put it out for 4,000 megawatts, and around 3,000 of those megawatts are powered by natural gas plants, and the other 1,000 megawatts are powered by renewables, whether that's wind or solar. And those renewables tend to have to be backed up by natural gas generators. So, like I say, heat pumps are fine, but where that electricity comes from tends to be natural gas for new electricity in the province. And right now we're running a deficit. And I'll just give you a couple numbers because I think if people knew this, maybe they wouldn't. They think a little bit more about some of these resolutions. So, the best, most efficient natural gas plant can produce electricity is 60%. So, they're producing that electricity and they're losing 40% of their natural gas. And then they transmit it to homes, and about a third of that is lost in the transmission. So along natural gas is lost, making electricity, transporting the electricity to run a heat pump, to heat your home, which can be done with natural gas. And natural gas efficiencies, if you go online, you'll find is about 93% efficient after accounting for storage and transmission. So I just wanted to bring it up. Like I say, it's really frustrating to read that. I think maybe somewhere down the road there might be a place for that, but we're nowhere near that.
Any other questions to Councillor Miller's item that he pulled? Seeing none, let's vote on that. All those in favor? I want to swing back to 8.1.1 because it's not to receive, it's to approve. I need a motion to approve. Councillor Oakley and Councillor Kyle, all those in favor? Oh, okay. Clerk's going to read it out.
Apologies, I just want to read out this resolution here. So that the report on closed meeting investigation 2024-01 from Aird and Barris LLP dated September 4th, 2024 be received as information, and that having consideration the recommendations contained therein, Council directs that the following be undertaken to address the report. For any in-camera session, either by Council or Standing Committee, the clerk or designate will be asked to read the motion to ensure that all members, staff, public in attendance, as well as anyone following the stream are aware of the exception and the general nature of discussions to be held in closed session. And 2, a module will be added to the Council Orientation/Education Session program attended by members of Council, Senior Administration, and the Council Services Division to explain in greater detail the open meeting provisions for the Municipal Act 2001 and to provide further information on best practices. Through you.
Okay, we're going to move on to 9.1, which are committee reports. The first committee report is the Policy Development Committee report. Councillor Coleman has that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, second by Councilor Bell, that the Policy Development Report of September 4th, 2024 being approved, noting there's 8 items.
Any questions to Councillor Coleman's report? Councillor Miller.
I'm going to ask if we could separate item 4 and item 6. Item 4 is the fireworks, and item 6 is the committees.
I'm sorry, which one again, Councillor Miller?
Well, item 4 about the fireworks, and item 6 about the committees.
Okay, so we'll vote on everything but 4 and 6. All those in favor? And then if you want to speak to 4 and then 6, Councillor Miller.
Okay, if we could do 4 separately, yeah, that'd be great. We have community grants guidelines, and we farm that out, but in those guidelines, we specifically exclude religious groups. Item 5 of the Policy Development Report tonight talks about flag raising, proclamation days, and lighting of Penman's Dam. That policy. And in that policy, it's written that we specifically exclude religious holidays, which brings me to the one I pulled out, item 4, fireworks. And in that one, we're going to specifically include a religious festival, and that's Diwali. So I thought maybe we could be consistent. We either include religious holidays, feasts, or we exclude them. In some of our policies, we exclude them, as I pointed out. I think there's others. But this one specifically includes one. So, I mean, to me, less fireworks is the better way to go. So I won't be supporting it.
Any other questions? All those in favor of number 4? And opposed? It passes. And what was the other one you separated, Councillor Miller?
Item 6, and that's on the committees.
Okay.
And I just have a question. That's based on the delegation we had tonight. Cemetery. So, some committees we have, Mr. Mayor, are legislated. They're provincially legislated. Are cemetery committees legislated? I thought that's what the delegation said, but I could be wrong. Through the BBO, I'm not sure what the organization was.
It's the Bereavement Association of Ontario.
That's the one. So I had it right.
Right, that's the cemetery one. That's
Yeah.
the one that regulates funeral homes and funeral directors and cemeteries.
Is there a municipal requirement to have a cemetery advisory committee?
Through your worship, no, that is not one of the legislative committees.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions on the committees, Councilor Miller?
Yeah, well, just a concern. I mean, it was brought up tonight. I mean, how do we as a council respond to those volunteers that they give their time, they give their effort, they give their expertise, and it does, they feel like they've been slapped in the face with us saying, we don't need you anymore. I don't know how we respond to that as a council.
Allison?
Through your worship, and again, we have other staff here who actually authored the report, and I know that this is one thing that we really want to make clear, and I do apologize if it didn't come across that way, but this is not at all saying that we don't want those volunteers anymore or their expertise. It's about we want to approach it in a different way, and we want to actually broaden the amount of expertise that we ask for in the community. So some of the standing committees have had the same members, which is admirable and appreciated, but there's also other people in the community who may not be able to sit on a standing committee, but could have input through an ad hoc committee, for example. So again, it's about approaching it in a different way with all these same people and with more. It's certainly not intended or meant to say that it's not going to be engaging those people anymore in their opinions and expertise.
Are you okay with that, Councilor Miller?
I'm okay with that. I just want the volunteers to be okay with that. And I don't know if we've communicated it well enough.
Well, I know that they're slighted. I mean, they feel they've put a lot of years and time into it, but if this is the change that's recommended, there's reasons for it. I guess we wouldn't have brought it up, staff. I guess the same transparency is going to be there. It's just going to be done in a different way. That's the way it's been explained to me. I don't know what else to say. Do you want to call in any other staff to comment?
Through your worship, staff can certainly comment if they have anything to add beyond that. You're probably correct, Councillor Miller, that all of this information hasn't been fully communicated to all of the groups really pending approval of the recommendations. Again, if staff who authored the report would like to add anything, they are here.
Through the mayor to council, I think this review, it did provide a critical review. It was, and that's what we were asked to do. We were asked to look at what have we always done, and are there new ways to do it. And I think through that review, we did discover that there's a lot of new things that we can do. And as Allison mentioned a few times tonight, it's certainly not about leaving people behind who have been so dedicated. It's also about inviting new voices to the table. And I think there's a lot of different ways we can do that. So for tourism, for example, the roundtable format was trialed last year on 2 different events. And that's where tourism operators were invited to come together, to network, to resource share, to share ideas, to build partnerships. And we're getting really positive feedback from that. And so those are the types of things that we want to continue to explore with the various lanes of business for the county, such as cemetery and tourism, to see how we can do things. And Edith is still here, which I appreciate. And we had a good discussion last week about, we have all of these stories with cemeteries that's been curated by a previous staff member. And these stories aren't really shared broadly within the community. So how can we have our local historians or other past volunteers like Edith or Joan come and tell these stories and share them more broadly and engage the broader community in cemeteries, because we actually have some very fascinating stories. So that was really the intention behind the report. It's how do we do things with a new lens, acknowledging that there is a finite amount of staff resources available.
Thank you. Any other questions, concerns? So we'll vote on the remaining item. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Takes us to 9.2 on the agenda, which is the Administration and Operations Committee report. And Councillor Pierce, you have that.
I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Bell, that the Administration and Operations Committee report of September 17th be approved, noting there are 17 recommendations from the 17th.
Are there any questions to Councillor Pierce's report? Seeing none, all those in favor to receive it? Opposed and carried. Paramedics, 9.3, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Pierce, that the Paramedic Services Committee report of September 11th, 2024 be approved.
Are there any questions to Councillor Miller for his report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed and carried. 9.4, which is the Paramedic Services Committee, Councillor Miller, if you want to speak to this.
I'll move it. I do have percentage increases if someone is interested in knowing that as well. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Pierce, that the Paramedic Services Committee report of September 18th, 2024 be approved, and that the Paramedic Services draft 2025 operating budget with total expenditures of 18.892 million net levy, which is a net levy of 10,684,000, City of Brantford net levy of 7.7 million, and County of Brant net levy of 2.97 million, be forwarded to City of Brantford councils as the draft budget approved by the Paramedic Services Committee for comments and consideration. So this is the, I was just going to say, this is the budget that was approved, draft budget at Paramedic Services Committee.
Councillor Pierce and Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are you looking for something directly to that, what Councillor Miller said there, or to the minutes and as a whole?
We're looking for the comments on the budget. No comments on the budget. So did I not call the question on the other one?
No, it's just part of the overall meeting minutes. Okay. The budget was part of it, but there was other parts of it too that I just want to speak to if I could.
Yeah. We separated it because it was over 2 meetings. You were there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, if you want to speak to anything then during to do with paramedics.
I do, Mr. Mayor, if I could. I just wanted to, and it's in the report, but I just want to let council know and anybody else know. We've always looked for ways to make our paramedic services better in the sense of faster service, better service, less code zeros, that type of thing. And I'm proud to say that with Russ, he's always looked at ways to look out of the box at different things. And he brought a proposal to us. Nothing was passed or anything like that, other than to potentially look further into it, to potentially help us to get rid of the code zeros and to potentially have faster response with more ambulances spread across the county and stuff like that. So I just wanted to just throw out my appreciation to those that were involved in those discussions again, just for thinking out of the box and trying to understand ways. We all know that one of the biggest hurdles that we're facing, and it's not just us, it's all over, is wait times at the hospital for offloads. It's a huge issue everywhere, and they can our paramedic staff, and they continue to try and look for ways to see what they can do to prevent code zeros and other people waiting while people are waiting to be unloaded at the hospital. So I just wanted to, it is in the report, but I just wanted to give another shout out to Russ and his team for the work that they've done, is thinking out of the box to try and look at alternative ways to help our community.
Yeah, the net levy, it's large. The county share is going up 18.6%. So year on year, it's a big increase. The reason we didn't get this done at the September 11th meeting was because it was an even larger increase. And so, yeah, to Russ and Heather and Cindy and their staff for wrestling that down. We are adding another ambulance. We're over 100% capacity now. half ambulance partway through the year. That's going to obviously drive up costs. It should be pointed out that every paramedic service across the province is doing the same thing. Hamilton added 10, I repeat, 10 new ambulances last year. So it's had a dramatic impact on their level of service, obviously, but that's costly. So we're doing what we can, but it's the game is rigged against us.
Councillor Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For you to Councillor Miller, that you said 18 point some % increase. Did that include the decision package?
Yeah, without the decision packages, it's 14.9%. With the decision packages, 18.6.
Yeah, I noticed that the decision package is a kind of half-year decision package, so you're phasing in that extra ambulance and the 4 extra technicians with it. So there will be a carryover into the 2026 budget. Thank you.
Any other questions for Councillor Miller on the paramedics report or the budget? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Takes us to number 10, staff reports, 10.1. North Paris Fire Hall. Chief?
So thank you. I hope you had a moment to review the report that we submitted, and we're just wondering if you had any questions.
Are there any questions for the chief? No? Okay. An early night for you.
Thank you.
Councillor Bell?
Yeah, you've got a future medic bay. What's the timing on that future medic bay? And how does it play into what we just heard from Councillor Miller on our paramedic services?
I'm gonna let Cindy address that question.
Through the mayor to council. So currently we have a paramedic bay at the Willett Hospital property, and we have a lease with them, which we expect to renew. It's a very cost-efficient lease at the present time, but we are looking down the road to if there is redevelopment at that site and we no longer have that building available. We have incorporated this future development at this site and incorporated into our site plan so that down the road, I don't know how long it will be, but it'll be more easily developed.
Thank you.
Okay, can I get a mover to put it on the floor? Councillor Pierce and Councillor Coleman. Any other conversation, questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 10.2 is the expansion of the sports complex. Can I get someone to put it on the floor first? Councillor Coleman, Councillor Bell, and who's here? Kathy Valentine's here, and who else? And Stacy's here. Does council have any questions for anyone? Okay. Councillor Pierce, you're first.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. I just want to make sure that I read this correctly. That it just for the design, it's $2 million.
Through the chair, so that's the design, as well as contract administration and commissioning. So it's start to finish. So it's the whole process. So it's detailed design. We have a preliminary design now that will still be vetted, and then it's detailed design, and then it's construction drawings and documents, and then it's construction management, so construction inspection and contract administration, right through to commissioning and occupancy. So it's the full, it works out to about 6.5% on the $30 million project, which is a reasonable cost. And that includes architectural, engineering, the whole thing.
Okay, thank you.
Who else had their hand up? Councillor Miller?
So along the same lines as Councillor Pierce, Fridays I scanned my package and I just scanned this and I thought it was $2 million to build it, and then I looked at it later and I thought, oh my gosh, that's just for architects. Of course, gas used to be 49 cents a liter too, so I guess that's the way the world goes. But I wanted to ask, through Mr. Mayor to the CEO, just a comment. Yeah, I hope we have that tender training sooner rather than later, because this one, and I'll ask about it tonight. Can you explain, through Mr. Mayor to Phil, can you explain why? Why would you go for this tender 75% technical merit and 25% cost? Like, that seems like really low on the cost, but I don't know. Why is that?
Sorry, I can start over if you like. So I didn't realize you couldn't hear me. The way that this tender is structured is that if the submitted firms meet the technical benchmark of 70%, then we proceed to open the pricing envelope. And then from there, the pricing is weighted 25%, the technical merit's weighted 75%. And it's the combination that we look at, and then the total score. So the proponent that was selected scored 82 out of 100 total, combined technical merit and score. And on the technical merit, we're looking at firms that have similar experience, that not only in the type of work, but the scale of project, and that they have the proper, not only design team and that but also proper project managers to manage the project. So there's a number of factors. It's vetted very thoroughly. So there was actually 17 submissions, and only 9 met that technical benchmark. And then from there, the total scores were determined. The firm that has been selected has some really great relevant experience. And I think one of the things that we're hopeful is that there's grant funding out there now for up to $10 million. We've been working with ministry reps, and I think we can fit the criteria. It's going to take us a few months to be able to submit for it, because we've got to get some work done with the new firm on confirming numbers. But when you consider that the project last time it was budgeted was at about $22 million, and I'm estimating now it's going to be roughly around 30. Even if we were successful in picking up $8 to $10 million in funding, it's just going to bring us back to the previous situation. The good thing is, I think this firm has the knowledge and the experience that we should be able to accelerate the schedule. And one of the issues is that we were planning for the end of 2027 to finish this project. The funding requires it finished by the end of first quarter 2027. It's a big feat, and I think what we tried to express in the report is that it's going to take a combined effort of work from the consultant, work from staff to respond quickly. We will maybe be pushing council to review some stuff ahead of normal process to try and get ahead of the game. And we're going to need, the community feedback very quickly too. The good thing is there was some really thorough consultation done before my time, and we have a really good concept. And it's just a matter of kind of fine tuning that and getting back in front of council with a couple of options And that's the way we've outlined the RFP, so that council wasn't just put with one option in front of them, but a couple of options for consideration.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Phil. I have several more questions, but I'll wait to the education session for that.
Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Phil. Phil, you're just asking us to approve the architectural cost here, not the $30 million that may come later.
Through the chair, that's correct. We're just right now just asking for approval of the architectural fees.
And do we understand where the $30 million might come from, if it is $30 million?
Through the chair, as outlined in the report, there's a number of ways that this project would be funded. But we're looking at two options. One is what can be done for the $22 million original budget, and then our estimate of the current program that's out there is probably $30 million. At the same time, we're going to try and get as much of that grant opportunity as we can to try and help the decision making for council.
And final question for me, is this rolled into our latest understanding of the long-term financial plan?
Through the chair, so right now in the long-term financial plan, as far as I understand it, we have the $22 million project, but I could have Heather confirm that.
Yeah, the original amount is in our long-term financial plan and our capital forecasts.
Any other questions? Seeing none, it's on the floor. It's been seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 10.3 is our ride program, public transit service 2025. Melissa and Leslie, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay.
Does council have any questions to the proposal in front of you? Councillor Bell?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Melissa. We're looking to get an option for years 28, 29, 30. On what basis would that option be executed? Do we have an agreed formula for doing that?
Through the chair. Sorry, Councillor Bell, could you just repeat the last part?
Yeah. Do we have an agreed formula for determining extensions in 28, 29 and 30?
Through the mayor to Councillor Bell, in terms of the cost? At this time, no, and it would be all pending council approval. This current bid is based on a 3% increase per year.
So is that what you would assume would be the case going forward?
And we would bring it back.
Do VIA agree with that?
Pardon?
Does VIA agree with that approach?
I think we would have to, the year before, have that conversation with them.
Okay.
It's an optional renewal. So I think at that time we're going to want to assess how do we feel about the service and next steps.
And do we have an agreed way of adding services to this contract? So if we find that the demand is growing and we want 2 more vehicles, is there an agreed price for adding those 2 more vehicles?
Through the mayor to Councillor Bell, we don't have an agreed price, but certainly VIA will collaborate with us to provide pricing that we will bring back to council. And then as well, just as a reminder, we're also going to be bringing proposals from the city of Brantford for fixed road and specialized transit as well. So those will all be in addition to.
Can I get a mover? Can I get a seconder? Councillor Oakley, need a seconder? Councillor Kyle, thank you. We can keep talking about it. I see that I didn't do it. So, are there any other questions for transport? Councillor Bell?
Speak. We had four tenders. Could you let us know, doesn't need to be today, but could you let us know the range of pricing from these 4 tenders? Because I presume VIA was the lowest tender.
So through the mayor, VIA was not the lowest tender. The price range was around the 950,000 mark up to the 1.139.
And then why did we not choose the lowest tender?
So again, Within the report, we talk about ranking that 75 points out of 100, and it needed to meet the technical merits first. So very similar to what my colleague Phil just explained. We outlined several criteria that we wanted this service provider to be able to meet, and VIA was able to deliver on all those requirements.
And what did the lowest tenderer, price tenderer, fall short on?
I'm sorry, Councillor Bell, can you say that again?
What did the lowest tenderer, in terms of price, fall short on in terms of technical delivery?
Through the mayor, I think there was a number of things with that proposal that we had concerns about. Some were around driver retention, which would be service reliability, their communication marketing abilities, which we had stipulated, their expertise available to us, and their staffing model. So we did have a number.
Any other questions? Councillor Miller?
Yeah, just, and I knew there was another 2575 in there, tenant, this was it. And, again, Phil did a nice job of explaining, but I'd still like to go into a little more detail with staff without risking, a lawsuit or anything. But why are we going with the 75-25? Is that the best way? Are there, is it the most cost effective method to put out tenders? Is it for our taxpayers? So, a lot of questions on it, but again, I'll wait till an education session.
Are you asking staff for a response, Councillor Miller? Or?
No, I can wait.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? No? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thanks, Willis. Takes us to 10.4, and it's the application for the tower. This is the one on Blue Lake Road, isn't it? German School Road. Yeah, I need to get someone to put on the floor, please. Councillor Oakley and Councillor McAlpine. Okay, if you want to speak to it, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. This came before you about 2 weeks ago. This is for the 519 German School Road, proposing the 45-meter tower setback just inside the property. It's a 3x3 meter area tower base. If the staff has nothing else to go through in the report, if there's questions, staff's willing to answer them. The applicant is also available via virtual.
Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Oakley.
Through the mayor to staff, not specifically regarding to this tower, but towers in general, when are we expecting to see back the report on the new policy?
I will defer that to Alicia.
Thank you very much. Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Oakley. We're anticipating that before the end of the year.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions for the presenter or for the application? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 10.5, which is 123 Middletown Line Road. Middletown Line Road. And 123.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No formal presentation this evening. This application was presented for information purposes last month, or at the beginning of the month, and it's a technical rezoning application as required as a condition of a consent application to sever a surplus dwelling. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Just get a mover to put it on the floor. Seconder, Councillor Kyle. It was brought on the floor by Councillor Coleman. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 10.6, which is the breathing apparatus. Who's going to? I need someone to put it on the floor. Councillor Pierce and Councillor Oakley. And Chief, if you want to speak to it.
Yes, this is just a report to replace the SCBA and some masks for breathing apparatus and for the safety of the firefighters.
Yeah.
Just happy to answer any questions.
Well, it's great to see the breakdown. Is there any questions to the Chief? Councillor Pierce?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the Chief, we're talking 145 air packs and 220 face pieces. So obviously that's extra face pieces. What's the lifespan of the face piece itself?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Typically, you get 15 to 20 years out of breathing apparatus. Sometimes masks, not as much because of the type of materials they are. But the ones that we currently have are pushing 20 years old. So.
And just to follow up, so obviously that's a mask for everybody and a few extras, right?
Correct.
Any other questions? Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the chief. So the city of Brantford's using this particular one right now?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Brantford is using Scott as well as a lot of our neighboring municipalities, Haldeman, Norfolk. And we are also currently using Scott packs. They do use a snap change bottle, which ours currently are threaded, and we're moving to the snap change.
Okay. And this is a good thing, you said, I think.
Sorry?
This is a good thing, I guess.
This is a very good thing, yes. It's good for when we're working together, especially with a lot of the high-rises that are starting to be built. We could be doing joint calls, and to have equipment that's easily transferable when we're on scene, it just helps with the efficiencies and safety.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried?
Thank you.
Thank you. Takes us to communications. We have 4. Do we want to vote on them all together? Councillor Bell?
Can I separate 11.3, please?
Yeah, well, let's separate them all then. 11.1, motion mover to put it on the floor. Councillor Oakley and Councillor Kyle. Any concerns? All those in favor of 11.1? I'm sorry, Councillor Kyle.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Not really a concern. I mean, it's passed now, so the tournament did happen in August. But I do know that there was myself, I think Councillor Oakley and Councillor Howes, there was a community fundraiser for Kayla and her team that we did attend personally.
Good, thank you. Good. So we'll call the vote again. All those in, Councillor Pierce?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, so this is already done then?
Yeah, I think the event is over. Yes.
So why?
Councillor Oakley, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, through the mayor, just to clarify, the intent of my motion would be just to receive this as information. Obviously, this is past date, and we obviously can't give them money to a thing that's already gone past. And I believe there was this community fundraiser I know as well in the meeting I had at the Paris Legion last night. They also donated money, and the resident was able to participate in this tournament. So,
okay, thank you. We voted. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 11.2. Is there any concerns on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 11.3. This is the one, Councillor, who wanted it separated? Councillor Bell?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased that BCHS tried to gather together the relevant stakeholders to hopefully step back, if that's what reimagine means, step back and think about what's the best way of trying to deliver a new hospital to our county and to the city. But I have a couple of questions. Who is on this committee, and do we have proper representation of people that have the right skills to make the contribution to this committee? And secondly, how does this interact, or does it not interact, with the committee that was proposed by the city just a little while ago? And you know I've asked this question before. I don't know whether you have any more insight into it.
Yeah. So I sit on this committee, and I'd like to remain on this committee if I could. It's composed of myself and Mayor Davis and MPP, Paul Emerson, the new chair, and Dave Levac, and the foundation. and a few other people. And it's really the people that know people and sort of our local people are sitting on the Imagine board. So I would like to be nominated to stay on it if I could. I've been to the first meeting already. And but the group you're talking about was formed the next day by the city. And it's, I saw the resolution for the city, and I spoke to Mayor Davis about it. I asked him to see if he could massage it and make it more, well, just better for the county, because it would show equal representation again. And he said he would, and he didn't. I don't know. Allison might know more.
Thank you, through your worship. I believe the motion actually was amended from the city to say that it would include elected representatives from neighboring communities. However, we've not received that request. So there is no nomination to be made for that. But I believe the original motion was amended as requested by the mayor. We just haven't heard anything further as of yet.
Thank you. I'm struggling a little bit with the term reimagine. I mean, reimagine to me means you step back, you think about something perhaps from a different perspective and come out with a different answer. That does not seem to me to be what's coming out of this reimagine committee. No disrespect to anybody that's on that committee, but not one of you is an engineer, not one of you is a planner. Yes, you've got contacts, but I think if you're going to reimagine it, then I think you need people that have those sort of skills to reimagine it and come out with a concept that is achievable and can be delivered in the right location and in the right time. So it seems to me this is more of a lobbying committee, more of a let's rouse the community to give some funding and support. It's not actually fundamentally reimagining what the new hospital will look like, or am I incorrect?
You are incorrect. But I'm going to let Councillor Oakley ask his question first, and then I'm going to tell you about the committee.
Yeah, sure. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just in sort of a question about the request from this letter. It's not particularly explicit who it's all inviting. It just says community leaders. Is it explicit that it is just one member from our council? That's yourself, Mr. Mayor, or can all of us show up to this committee? It's not very explicit here in the letter who specifically they are inviting or how many members they were inviting. Yeah. And as a aside in regards to the Brantford resolution, I believe they're ratifying that this evening, which is why we have not seen anything.
Right. Okay. So I can speak to that. I was at the first meeting, so I know what the meeting's all about. And we are sworn to secrecy about the imagine that. That's what it's the Imagine Committee. So I can't speak to the new concept that's coming forward. It is something new and it's different and it's attainable, and I don't think it's a bad thing. So that's encouraging. I think it's a better solution for the county, what they're going to propose, but I can't speak to it right now because they've asked us all not to. I think the right people are in place to get it to go through as quickly as it can go through. I think what I bring to the committee is determination, and I have a good past record of raising money, millions of dollars, and that's what we need right now is millions of dollars, and I think that's what I bring. And I also bring the stability of the county to be heard and seen and have a very strong vote. I have good friends at that table.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, Mr. Mayor. It's no disrespect, but if this is a huge capital project, I mean, we're talking potentially billions of dollars.
Yes.
All my experience in project management says you've got to start with the right concept, because if you build the wrong project, it will not serve you well. So my understanding of reimagining was stepping back, and maybe this is where you're sworn to secrecy and you can't tell me. But it is not typically determined by elected officials. It is determined by people that have planning, engineering, logistical skills. And, you know, again, no disrespect to you, you've got an enormous number of skills, but not in this area. And I just wonder who is working at that level to bring forward a concept that then you, and Mayor Davis and other people can actually say, yeah, we think we can support this from a political community perspective.
It's as far as buildings or renderings or stuff like that, that hasn't happened yet. Right now, it's a concept, and it's a concept that I think people will like. I think the county will like it. I think the county will like it very much, like much more than the city might think. And so I have great hopes for it. And you know that I don't have high hopes for some things, and I do have very high hopes for this. So imagine that, and you'll see what's going to happen, I think. But right now, it's kind of we're not able to speak about it. We all did agree that we wouldn't, so I can't.
So there's no finishing on my question. Then the interaction with the community that is being formed by the city, which may or may not. Sorry, the interaction with the committee that is being formed by the city, which may or may not include members of this council. Did that Reimagine committee talk about how it would work with this other committee?
No, the Imagine committee was quite shocked to see that that was even going to happen the next day. And a couple of people asked why they would and why they should. And we were just told that it hasn't happened yet. It's just a recommendation or a resolution, and nothing's happened. But I did have it handed to me, and I read it, and I said, if this is going to work, you've got to do this and this and this and this, or it's just going to cause trouble and we're going to end up nowhere. Imagine that. And they promised me they would do something. So tonight, I guess, is when they're going to do it. But I had heard that they had done it, and it wasn't going to be the way I wanted it, but it was going to be better than the way it was presented to me. But I don't know why they need anything, but they apparently do.
So as our representative on this Reimagine committee, can we ask that you keep us informed about how these two committees may or may not interact?
Absolutely. You may even read about it in tomorrow's paper. Sometimes I find out things in the paper before I know it myself. Imagine that. Reimagine that. Anyway, that's what's going on there. So I'm asking that I stay on that committee because I was asked to join it by the committee, and I said I would, and I'm not liking it. I'm liking it because it's the first time that I've heard anything about the new development of hospitals that I've really bought into. So, Councillor Miller.
Just I don't know if Paul Emerson was pushing for this or not, but I've always complained. I've been saying for a while that we should have a liaison on there. Considering what the hospital, the health system is asking of us, of council, of our community, they really should be including us as a partner. They don't, and that's frustrating. So I'm glad to see that it's a small step. Disappointed that it's secret because. I'll give you an example. I was going through some paperwork the other day, and I had a note. I take notes from the one meeting, 2021. The cost of the hospital, 1.4 billion. Right, 2020. That's not a lot. That's 3 years ago. And then we had Paul and someone else standing up there earlier this year saying it's going to be $2.5 billion. So, and that was a shock, and we shouldn't have these shocks. So, like I say, it's a good first step. I don't think it's enough.
I think we have to swing back to, what is it, 11.2 and have it approved? Yeah, I need approval of 11.2. We didn't have the vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Just to keep us on track. So with 11.1 then, I do have to, 11.3, I do have to have a mover to get on the floor and seconder. And thank you. I was going to do it myself. I have my hand. Thank you, Councillor Chambers and Councillor Bell. All those in favor? Opposed? Was there anyone opposed? No. Okay, 11. That was a hard one to get through, actually. 11.4. Who's going to speak to that? Yeah. Nobody. I thought maybe Councillor Chambers would have something to say about that, but no. Okay, all those in favor to receive? Oh, Councillor Miller has a question.
Is it on the floor?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll leave it on the floor. Very quickly, it's a short letter. I hope you read it. And I will draw your attention to the third last paragraph. So anyway, SCORE has completed all 97 of their projects for broadband. and that is to all, every premise that I brought to, they didn't have broadband before. So a lot of work was done. It's taken a while, but it should be emphasized that it was over-delivered and under budget. And I don't know, you can probably count on one hand how many government projects can say that. So kudos to Wow Seed for coming up with that idea way back when. And a lot of work occurred on Swift to get it done. So they did a good job. They worked with a lot of smaller ISPs as well. That was one of their criteria, one of their guidelines. And Swift is not done yet. So there's a whole bunch of provincial programs going on. The big players got the big projects. So we're looking at Bell, we're looking at Explore, we're looking at Rogers. And we got Rogers doing the bulk of the work here in the county. Explore has a little bit in Ward 4. But Swift has been given a contract to identify any residents that get missed with these provincial programs. So this is for us sitting around the table. If you come across a resident that doesn't think they're going to get high speed, let me know. So, Councillor Kyle, you just told me about Brant Waterloo Road in Ward 4. There's residents on Norwich Road concerned about it, and Vansicle Road in Ward 5. So those are the ones I know about. But like I said, if you come across some of our ratepayers who don't have high speed, and there's a project going on near them, and they don't see anybody coming down their road or their stretch of the road, let me know, and I have places I can refer them to.
Thank you. Councillor Chambers.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask a related question to our General Manager of Public Works? Yep. And the question is this: all over the place, I see these orange coils laying out on some even on the road, and I'm becoming concerned that these projects aren't going to be finished before it's time to be winging snow off these roads. And I'm just wondering what's going to happen to these projects and the orange coils that are laying all over the place when winter comes.
Mr. Walton.
Through the mayor to Councillor Chambers. I'm not sure of the schedule of their projects. They certainly, I certainly noticed the same things as you, and I'll certainly have the director of roads have a conversation with the contractors about what they foresee happening, because we certainly have to plow the roads, and avoiding them under piles of snow is a very difficult thing to do. So we'll have a conversation.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Takes us to number 12, and that's my notice of motion, and the clerk's going to read that for me.
Yes, through you, Mayor Bailey. This notice of motion is going to appear on the October 22nd council agenda for deliberation. Whereas the County of Brant, Middlesex County, Municipality of Strathroy, Caradoc, Norfolk County, Town of Tillsonburg, Municipality of East Ora, Tavistock, Grey County, Perth County, City of Stratford, Municipality of Lambton Shores, and Wellington County have successfully utilized government funding to create and sustain local community transit through Southwest Community Transit. And whereas 85,000 riders have utilized the Southwest Community Transit services in the first half of 2024 alone, demonstrating significant community resilience on these services. And whereas the economic impact of this transit system is estimated to be $748 million and $800,000 annually, largely due to its role in providing transportation to employment opportunities. And whereas the current funding for this critical small urban and rural intercommunity transit service is set to expire in March 2025, putting the sustainability of the service is at risk. Therefore, be it resolved that the County of Brant Council urges the provincial government to continue funding Southwest Community Transit beyond March 2025 to ensure the ongoing viability of this essential service for small urban and rural Ontario. Sorry, I have another paragraph. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Be it further resolved that this resolution be circulated to the County of Brant, Elgin County, Middlesex County, Norfolk County, Oxford County, Municipality of Strathroy, Caradoc, Town of Tillsonburg, Municipality of East Ora, Tavistock, Perth County, City of Stratford, Municipality of Lambton Shores, Wellington County, Bruce County, Municipality of Bayham, Municipality of Thames Centre, and other relevant stakeholders for their support and advocacy.
Everyone's clear? All those in favor? Oh, I don't have to vote on it, sorry. Takes us to number 13 on the agenda, which is other business.
Mr. Mayor, when will you bring this to for discussion?
On the
For discussion.
24th, I think. 22nd.
Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Chambers?
Mr. Our procedural bylaw allows us to waive a notice, and we can do that tonight if a motion to waive notice requirements would be in order. I would make that, and then we can approve this tonight, and it can be put forward at the SCORE meeting this Thursday.
That would be appreciated.
So I'll make the necessary motions to facilitate that.
Seeking a seconder, Councillor Oakley. Any discussion? Councillor Bell?
Yeah, I've struggled a lot with this particular issue from school. It seems remote from the county of Brandon. What have we benefited from the Southwest Community Transit funding? Have we had any?
I believe we have. Councillor Chambers, do you want to speak to it? You were involved longer than I have.
Through the organization of the whole concept, we've been involved right from square one, and we do it a little different in Brant County than they do in Oxford and Middlesex. But the project is actually was conceived and promoted at the recommendation of the minister by SCORE. So, as a member of SCORE, we have been front and center with this. Now, if you're looking for a tangible benefit, I think you have to look at the tangible benefit of the region that we're in and recognize that the region that we're in, if there are tangible benefits to the region, we benefit accordingly.
Well, sorry, I don't see any. I would like to understand what those tangible benefits are. Nobody's been, when SCORE have been here, they've not been able to explain it. We get none of this funding that helps our own transit system, which is, I presume, a part of this overall Southwest Community Transit system. So I'm struggling to understand why we want to lend support to something that our community does not get benefit from.
And I can answer that in a very specific way. As a member of SCORE, we are a partnership, and there may be things that we get that Middlesex County doesn't get. But as a member of a collaborative partnership, we take what we get as benefit for the region. Now, if we want to not support Middlesex County, then don't expect Middlesex County to support us. That's why you're in SCORE, to act as a region for the benefit of the region, not specifically the area of Brant, but the region. It's a regional collaboration.
I think we need to just be talking about waiving the condition to let us let this go forward tonight. Actually, it's very good that you did that, I think, because it's all very timely for SCORE right now. It's a very funny time for SCORE right now, and it's going to be good for SCORE that we've done this, or you've done this for me tonight. Councillor Oakley, you wanted to say something?
Through the mayor, I will wait until we're speaking about the actual motion if we do, in fact, waive the rules.
Okay, so I have it on the floor to waive the rules. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Oakley, and now you can speak to that. Oh, all those in favor to waive the rules? Yeah, and now Councillor Oakley.
Oh, yep, I had it on and turned it off. Would we be able to, or do we benefit from this funding stream for our own program?
So through the mayor to Councillor Oakley, no, we have not taken advantage of the provincial funding.
Okay. Further, Mayor, if I may continue. I was part of the SCORE delegation speaking about the Southwest Community Transit and continuing the funding and also expanding the funding. So I do believe that is beneficial for us to advocate for continuing this funding and also the expansion of, hopefully us benefiting from further expansion of funding. And I think as well, using this center group to sort of collaborate and work together in the future with how we can have our system fit in other transit systems is going to benefit the entire system, as more ridership in our community is going to increase user rates or usership of our own service. So I think there are benefits, and I think along with Councillor Chambers said, it's also in our best interest to advocate for our region where possible.
Councillor Pierce.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you, if I could, back to Melissa, I just want to confirm what you said there about Councillor Oakley. I think you said we have not taken advantage of that as yet. So does that mean that there's possibility that we could benefit from some of that, or is it we can't, or we haven't taken advantage of it?
So through the mayor to Councillor Pierce, I think our hope is that we will be looking at all the provincial funding that's going to be released. We understand right now the province is redefining what their funding will look like, and we are not sure, as with these municipalities, what that's going to mean. And so I think the hope is that if it is appropriate for the county to apply for future funding for transit, we will.
Okay, so it's not that we're not able to get it, we're just not sure how it's going to. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Allison.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to try to provide a little bit of clarity from what I understand in my conversations with SCORE about SCT is the initial pot of funding really went towards the background research and initial study that was done on how Southwest Community Transit could work. So it was a matter of demand and opportunity. I believe that was done by Dillon Consulting, and it came forward with a number of recommendations, which were in principle approved by all members of SCORE. Where it's really at now is that to take it to the next step and start connecting the different transit providers between the different SCORE regions requires more funding. So it's sort of gone so far, and there has been some cooperation and talk between the municipalities about how we can connect. But at this point, there's no funding to take it to the next step. So it's not really a one and done. It's not a matter of if there's more funding, it's going to stay status quo. It's a matter of if there's more funding, we're going to take it further. So that's my understanding of the program. So just to maybe provide some clarity about where they want to go in terms of continuing the program.
Councillor Kyle and then Councillor Bell.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. And just to add to Allison's comments and Councillor Oakley's comments, I was part of the SCORE delegations as well, and one of the things that they talked about was the fact that if this funding goes away, then that prevents them from running the SCT altogether, and the amount that they would need in order to keep it running is somewhere in the neighborhood of, I think it's $750,000 a year, which in the grand scheme of subsidizing public transit, which the Toronto Transit Commission, the Metrolink, some of those ones, they are heavily subsidized, much more than $750,000 a year. So I think that was one of the arguments that they had for keeping that funding, is that it is relatively minimal cost for such a huge area of people to be able to cover with the service. And the other thing is that the vast majority of the riders that are using it are for employment purposes. I don't know if we have that data for Brant Transit at this point in time, or how many people are perhaps using Brant Transit to get to Woodstock, where then they connect in with the SCT. Maybe at some point we would have that data. I don't know, Melissa, if we have that, but it's possible that our folks are inadvertently using that service as well.
Councillor Bell. Your microphone. Your microphone.
Are there specific proposals that we are wanting to put into this funding request that will benefit our community? Just taking up Councillor Kyle's comment there, do we have any way of getting Brant Transit to get to Woodstock if people wish to work in Woodstock? And I've never heard of our Brant Transit system getting to Woodstock, and maybe I'm just not hearing it, but you know, that's if we could do that, I'd be really supportive of this. But if we're just going to sit there and watch somebody else get some money, we get nothing from it. We're not even connected to it, because that was my concern when SCORE came along and talked to us about it. Not once, but 2 or 3 times they've talked about this, but we've never really made a step forward. If this is a way to make a positive step forward, absolutely I could support it. But is that what is being proposed, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, that's what I believe. I think if we don't support this, we'll never get anything. And we've gone so far now. I mean, I go to the meetings, we go to the delegations, we talk to the ministers, and we represent over 1 million people, 1.5 million people, I believe, in all these ridings and stuff. And I mean, to leave now or not support it now would be foolish, I think, just because we're invested. And when the money does come, to not be part of this list, I think we would feel foolish to drop out for no reason when we've paid our $30,000 and our $30,000 over and over again, and gone to delegations and gone to meetings, and I go to meetings and conferences, and to pull out now, or not to support it now for no special reason, I don't understand why we would. And I do understand that you're looking for a return on our investment of our $30,000 membership.
Not so much a return on investment, but a clear statement that we are actually part of this system. And right now we're not part of this system. And if by getting funding from the province, we can be connected to Woodstock, we can be connected to Simcoe by whatever means, whether it's Brant Transit or sister of Brant Transit, I don't care. But right now we're isolated effectively, and there's no mechanisms to change that. And if we write that into this motion, I'll be 100% supportive. As it stands, I can't support it.
Okay, I don't know that you understand it though. Maybe I don't know. We're neighbors to all of these people, so why would they not come to us?
But they don't.
Well, it's not finished yet.
For the last 6 years, we've not made any progress.
Mr. Mayor, I think we're going to call the question. If someone doesn't support it, they don't support it. I'm not going to argue with them, but I just want to make one comment. If you read one of the whereas clauses, it's estimated that 748, there's a lot of zeros there, is a benefit to the area. If this benefits Woodstock, a lot of people in Brant County, particularly in the western part, work in Woodstock. So there's a benefit to the people in Brant County work in Woodstock if a transit system assists in Woodstock to remain viable, and the offshoots of $748 million is a benefit to the area. So why wouldn't we support this if it contributes to the area, which we are included in the area, even though we may nitpick and say that the buses don't go into Brant County, but we as a region benefit because of that, and our residents that live in the region benefit because of that. That's why it should be supported. So I'm going to ask that you call the question.
Okay, with that being said, I need a mover, Councillor Oakley, and a seconder, Councillor Kyle, and I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Takes us to number 13, which is new business. We have 2 items of new business. Councillor Miller, you're first. Did you have Councillor Pierce, sorry.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I kind of give him a heads up on this, but a question to General Manager Walton. I'd like, if we could, to get an update on the construction that's happening in town here. Twofold, one on Grand River Street North at Silver and one on West River. Just want to understand current status. Are things moving as we expected? Are there any delays? And especially are they on time, and when is the time frames for them?
Mr. Walton.
Through the mayor to Councillor Pierce. Start out with Grand River Street North and Silver, the intersection improvements there. They've been working for a couple of weeks there now. I think there's some confusion when you thought there was a short-term project there. Actually, November 15th is the proposed completion date. So it was 2 months, not the 2 weeks we talked of before. So I did confirm that with our staff after you gave me the heads up on that. With respect to West River Street, there has been some delays there. We had some serious utility conflict problems that came up as they started on the project. So there's 2 things we're working on right now is to get those utility conflicts dealt with. I believe that the sanitary sewer work is starting next week, And the other thing is we had, when we're doing the water main, the temporary water main, we discovered there's a great number of galvanized services which are in very poor condition. So we go to connect to them. There's really nothing to connect to. And this is a good thing we're doing this now, because this would have been a problem we would have been dealing with anyways eventually. So we're going to be replacing those with new copper services as we go, and we're just getting that all aligned. So we do intend very shortly to be actually communicating with all the residents on the street to bring them up to date. And in talking to my construction staff tonight via some texts and team messages, I do think that on all the construction projects that we've got going right now, that we probably will do either a Friday file or a report to council or to committee in October, just to bring everybody up to speed on the schedule on all of them. So
that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for that update.
Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks for giving me a little bit of leeway in this one. A few months ago, I had asked staff, a motion was put forward that we get something done to name after the former Mayor Eddie. And working with staff and working with the family has come back to me yesterday, I guess it was, and I had put forward a suggestion is do something like we did for the Nixon family from the Hamilton Wentworth border to the St. George, and by calling it the Nixon Way. And my suggestion was doing something from Osborne's Corners to the outskirts of Paris, and calling it Eddie Way or whatever. The family was whatever. So brought that forward to staff, and then staff informed me tonight, and I forgot it all myself, was that is a boundary road with the city. So we would have to go through the city to ask the city to get something done like that. So I'm hoping, Mr. Mayor, putting us through is that we can expedite this to get something done sooner than later on this situation and work with the city, and hopefully we can get this done somehow. Thank you.
Comments, concerns, comments? Good idea. Yeah, so we'll talk to the city as soon as we can and bring it back once the city sort of okays it, and get it done as soon as we can. That's great. That's great. Okay. You don't need anything on that. Just get staff to talk to the city. Okay. And that takes us to 14, which is a motion to go in camera. And Councillor Garneau, you have that?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Kyle that the Brant County Council convene in camera to discuss. We've got 14.1 RPT-0395-24. This is under Section 239, subsection 2E, litigation or potential litigation, and subsection F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege with regards to Ontario Land Tribunal Appeal 1760 Colburn Street East. Solicitor speaking to that. 14.2 RPT-0442-024. Again, Section 239, subsection 2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, a staffing update from Heather Boyd. And 14.3, this is under Section 239, subsection 2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, staff development, with the CAO's name attached.
Oh, all those in favor to go in camera? Opposed? Okay, we're going in camera. Okay, so we are now at bylaws, 15 bylaws. Councillor Oakley, you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McAlpine, that bylaws 85-24 to 99-24 be read first time.
All those in favor of the first reading of the bylaws? Second reading, please, Councillor Oakley.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McAlpine, that bylaws 85-24 to 99-24 be read a second time and all preambles and clauses be adopted.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the second reading of bylaws? All those in favor of the second reading? And if you could do it one more time, Councillor Oakley.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McAlpine that bylaws 57-24, 75-24, and 85-24 to 99-24 be read a third time, passed, signed, and executed.
All those in favor of the third reading of the bylaws? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Takes us to number 16 on the agenda. Is there anything else before we look for adjournment, Councillor Pierce?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a reminder, everybody, Thursday night, 26th, salute the Brant. Be there or be nowhere.
Or be square. That's right, Councillor Chambers?
I just wanted to
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Noted.
Oh, okay. There you go. Anything else for the betterment of the county of Brant? If not, the next meeting is October the 8th. Really?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Right, yeah.
Okay. And I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Get back in your